But anyway, greetings from Los Angeles. This is Daisuke, and once again, I'm joined by our dear friend Tanner at the Horrible Show. So Tanner, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's always amazing, man. It really is.
So thank you so much for making the time today. I know you're a very busy person. So we got together and actually, just to give a little bit of background, we talked offline and as we normally do about films and how's everything going
Hmm.
and the Halloween films came up
Yeah.
and we were talking and I was really getting into the conversation and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a discussion with Tanner about the Halloween films? And so Tanner very kindly agreed, and so I think what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to talk about the films, but let's do it, for me anyway. It's a little bit of I mean, I've done these things before, but
Hmm.
not to this extent, so I'm
Me
treading new
too.
territory from my perspective, which is let's try to rank the films for
Yeah.
in terms in order of our favorite. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of films in the Halloween film series, and I'm a big fan, and I know Tanner's a big fan, and we'll
Hmm.
talk about that in just a moment. But just to set a few guidelines or a few parameters here, so we're going to be talking about our favorites or the ranking of the films, the Halloween films, based on our own subjective personal rankings list. So these are our own lists. This is my own personal list, and Tanner's going to share with us his own personal list as
Hmm.
well. So let's go in order from, let's say, what is it, 13
Yeah.
down to number one. So 13 being, let's see, number one being our most favorite. And so let's start with the very number 13 and go in that order.
Okay.
But before we do, I think we're going to be talking a lot of details, a lot of spoilers for all the films.
Yeah.
So, including the most recent films in the series. So, if you haven't seen these films, then maybe again, we don't want to spoil the surprises. But again, these are for a discussion between two friends who are both into Halloween films. So we're going to be talking a lot about the details here. So
Yeah.
so just keep that in mind. Also, I think there are different versions of films sometimes that come up, sometimes a theatrical version, sometimes
Yeah.
extended cut or producer's cut, as some
Yeah.
or the like. So we're not going to be talking about each of those cuts as its own thing, but when it comes time to the film, maybe Tanner or I, we might rely on what version we prefer, and we might, if we
Yeah.
want to, add comments as to why we feel that way. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's why we'll be dealing with this in terms of 13 films total. So, uh, Tanner, do you have anything to add before we begin?
I just want to say thanks, man. I appreciate it. So excited. I've been excited all week, and it was nice to go back and just rewatch all these movies, man. It kind of really got me into the Halloween vibe, and it's been good. It's been fun.
Before we get into it, could I just hear from you just a little bit as to just generally how you got into the Halloween films, and maybe could you let us know how much of a fan are you of the Halloween films?
Oh man. So I would say Halloween is probably like one of the first of the main franchises I got into. It. My grandmother had the first Halloween on VHS, and I can't even. You were talking in one of your videos recently about a movie that you just remember that you've watched. Like you can't remember a time in your life where you haven't seen it. Like I feel like that for a lot of the Halloween films. Like whether it be like AMC Fear Fest always showed like two, four, and five. Um, and I just remember I can't remember not having the original Halloween in my life. So I just love the whole franchise. When the box set, the Blu-ray box set, I pre-ordered it. I was freaking out. Um, and I had friends growing up. We would, like lend each other like VHS and DVDs so we could like finish the series. So I feel like it's been there for a long time.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, Similarly for me, it's been a series that has been near and dear to me since I was growing up, and the just talking about seeing, say, Halloween 2, Halloween 3, and then as the films were released, I
Hmm.
would try to catch up with them as much as possible. So,
Yeah.
oh, I can't wait! I can't wait to talk about these series. So,
Oh yeah.
um, anything further before we begin, my friend?
Um, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna try to brush up and tell you which, because I did
Okay.
try to rewatch everything, and just tell you which cuts that I did watch, and I might have to reference you maybe on some of the other cuts, uh, if you happen to know information, because sometimes like I'll forget, especially with the first one I'll bring up. I'll fill you in a little bit more. You might have to,
Oh,
you
okay.
know, yeah, yeah,
Okay, okay. So let's do this. I haven't done this before, so I'm gonna be maybe. So please pardon me, but I'll do my best to try to guide the conversation along. But
okay,
what we'll do is maybe you give us your number 13 first, and then I'll probably jump in then with my number 13. And of course, there's going to be some overlap. So maybe I might talk about a film that you'll be talking about later.
hmm,
But we'll see how this works. Again, it's our first time doing this, so sorry if it doesn't work out at the end. But the whole point is just to have fun and enjoy. And what better way to enjoy and have fun with Halloween films than with good
yeah,
company like Tanner? So thank you so much
absolutely.
for doing this, my friend.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. So, without further ado, and you mentioned the cuts, so I'm already thinking something's going to happen with number 13. So, please go ahead. What's your
Man,
number 13 favorite
give me a,
film in the Halloween franchise? Number 13, please.
all right. Okay. And I do have to apologize. I know this probably it might not be the most polite thing, but I got some notes on my phone I might have to reference just to make sure I don't forget. All right. So my number 13 is Rob Zombie's H2. And I'm not saying this is a bad movie. I'm not here to just destroy these films, and especially Rob Zombie. I'm not here to destroy Rob Zombie, but there are some definite things that I feel like could have been done a little bit better. Um, I feel like this one was a little bit rushed, and I think Brad Dourif's back probably hurts from carrying this whole this whole movie. I can't. I love it every time he's on screen. I
Yeah.
could have watched him reading the newspaper for an hour and a half. You're just talking about that. Um, but there's some positive things, like Brad Dourif, and I like Rob Zombie's vibe. I like how he has music from the '60s and the '70s. I like his aesthetic. I think some of the like dream sequence stuff is a little much in here. I'll give him that. It kind of reminds me of the Nirvana heart shaped box video a little bit. Like you got like Rob's Michael Myers mask on the skeleton and things like that. And there's one thing in particular that kind of hurts me with this one is that there's a 13-minute long dream sequence that you kind of get invested in, and then Lori wakes up, and
Oh,
then
the beginning, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so good though because you're like, oh, what are you gonna do? Octavia Spencer's in there. Who is Abigail Williams from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 fame? She's in there. And you're like, all right, where's this gonna go? We got the rain. It's set up with the knights in white satin, kind of cool, like spooky vibes. And then she just wakes up.
Yeah.
you
After
know,
he breaks into that little thing
the
in the
the,
yeah, yeah.
the,
Yeah, yeah.
the security booth because you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2, one of my favorites, man. As you know, we'll both be talking about that. So you're like, okay, when the first time you watch, you're like, okay, Rob Zombie, he's gonna kind of harken back to that. Let's see what his take is on that, and then it really starts. The vibe starts to amp up, the energy starts to amp up, and then it just knocks it back
Yeah.
down.
What version would you say you would be, say, referring to, or what version would you say do you? I don't know. Your feelings about this. Do you have a preference as to what version? There's the theatrical version,
Hmm.
and then there is now the extended uh, cut, or the
Yeah.
unrated cut, which I think that unrated cut is the more available of the two cuts. I think, relatively speaking, in terms of physical media availability. So, although the theatrical cut is still available. So,
Hmm.
what do you prefer when you revisit Halloween 2, the Rob Zombie 2009 film?
So personally, I think the theatrical version is the one I gravitate towards a little bit more, and I do feel bad that the choice of cuts isn't as readily available.
Yeah.
Um, as I'll because I'll talk about that a little bit more on how I feel about the Rob Zombie original remake. Um, but I know Viavision just put out. I can't remember. I think they might be an Australian company, but they put out the Blu-ray set that has both,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
nice with all the. But still, if you let's say if you go to a Walmart or something like that, um, or any place or a Best Buy, you'll pick up most of the time just the unrated versions, which I think is kind of a shame sometimes. But
Yeah. What is it about the theatrical cut that you prefer, for example?
I feel like so if I can remember correctly, I believe that in the unrated cut, it's just like I understand like different trauma, like I understand Lori and what she's going through, but I think there's in the theatrical cut there's a more positive outlook on her character, especially in the beginning. I feel like she's a little bit more like, all right, this horrible stuff happened. We're gonna try to move on with our lives, even though she's still taking the medication. There's scenes of her going through like the cabinets and stuff like that. Still clearly trying to get over some traumatic stuff, right? But there's a more positive outlook until about halfway through the movie, where I think the theatrical and the unrated cut kind of like her character kind of becomes the same in those two cuts.
Mm.
And I feel like in the unrated cut, she's like pretty moody. I feel like that's maybe not the best way to describe it, but I feel like she's on eggshells. I feel like the whole house is kind of on eggshells.
Yeah, the Brackett household, right?
Yeah.
And her relationship with Annie is very,
Hmm.
very strained, and there's a lot of. I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think there's more of that strained relationship vibe in the extended cut
Yeah.
than there is in the theatrical cut, although it's there. Also, the ending too. I think the ending is quite different
Hmm.
in the
And
in the.
that's
Yeah. Oh, please go
and
ahead.
and that's one thing I was gonna. It had been a quite a while since I'd seen the unrated ending, um, and that was one thing. Is it? I didn't think that the theatrical cut ending was bad. I think it was maybe a little lackluster. You know, you got a whole bunch of people. There's a helicopter flying over and stuff like that. But yeah, I was gonna maybe down the line if you want to maybe express it later when you bring it up uh,
Sure. Sure.
in your. But as for the theatrical, I thought it was just okay. You know, I don't like how Rob Zombie. I don't think it's the best way to have in a title card at the beginning of your movie something that you want to express the imagery. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you like leave it more ambiguous if you're going to put a white horse in there. Like please don't tell the audience. That's one thing. Like you know, like l- we're here to kind of like it's a visual medium. Like let us make our own uh, opinions about something. Like if you kind of like here, let me sprinkle a little little graham cracker on you, and kind of tell you what you should be thinking earlier in the movie. I think that's a little heavy handed.
Okay. That's fair. That's very fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll try to uh, maybe I'll save my comments more when we get to that spot on my list as well. But just
Hmm.
say yes. I can see. I always go back and forth in terms of the white horse. I mean, I like horses. I like white horses.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's there, but it's just, it is very jarring.
Hmm.
It's something that we haven't seen before, and I think I it works. If it works, it works. But sometimes it is somewhat. Um, right. It is somewhat interesting to that juxtaposition between the sort of the rugged uh, Michael, the hulking, rugged Michael with in dressed up in that very hulking way, and then seeing this pristine white horse
Yeah,
with the image of the mother as well, and that image I think is very striking. I think it's meant to obviously right. It's meant to evoke the visions of Michael or this type of motivation, which I think is part of the motivation behind the Rob Zombie films themselves. But
yeah,
yeah, totally understand.
yeah,
So number 13 for you is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
yeah.
So yeah.
Definitely still worth a watch, though. Like I said, I don't want to, you know, I think Rob Zombie's a very talented filmmaker. I don't want
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I think there's again, it's part of this lore and it's part of the history and legacy of Halloween. So definitely I too revisit the film a lot. So well done. So that's number 13. So
to. Thank
so
you.
now let's turn to my number 13, which is I kind of I don't know, maybe well yeah, let me just say here it is. Can you see it? There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Halloween Resurrection. So Halloween Resurrection is my number 13. So um I let me start just by saying this film when I first saw it on I guess whatever it was. I didn't see it. Yeah, I mean, did I see it in the theater? I mean, I guess it's my memory is now fading
Hmm.
due to age. But when I first saw this, it was a bit of a shock. I must say, it was a
Yeah.
real shock. I mean, we were coming off of the heels of the great success that was Halloween H2
Yeah.
20 years later, and that was a big hit, and it was also in many ways a type of revival of the series in a manner of speaking. Maybe we'll talk about that when we get to Halloween H2 a little bit later, but.
Hmm.
Uh, and it was and Laurie Strode is back, Jamie Lee Curtis is back,
Yeah.
and the like, and so it was great. It was a really exciting time, and then you get to see what the trailers are, and you get to see what's going on. Oh, and this interesting thing about oh, webcams and
Hmm.
things, which is itself not a deplorable idea. I think it's
No.
a really interesting idea, but then it becomes all the less. I'm not sure it just doesn't feel right. And when I watch the film, it's what you say before. There's a the beginning of the film which seems to be a complete 180 from what we saw in the earlier film Halloween H2O, which is a very big shock for me. Laurie Strode and where she is after the events of H2O, which suddenly become a completely different thing
Yeah.
if you know the end of H2O and then the beginning of Halloween Resurrection. Oh, it's not even Michael, it's the guy with the mustache. Talk
Yeah.
about talk about mustached people in these Halloween films. I mean, there's another guy in the first film Halloween with a you see right, you remember Loomis discovers the little rabbit and red thing, and then the
Yeah.
camera scrolls, duh, and you see the mustached corpse or someone
Yep.
in the bushes there. So people with mustaches don't seem to have a high survival rate in these films, I suppose, and that's also for this guy, the paramedic or someone
Yeah.
in Halloween Resurrection, which we understand is the person that we saw or that picked up the body of Michael at the end of H2O, which
Hmm.
I don't think we saw in that version, at least the version I saw. I don't remember seeing in that film, but
No.
it's explained here. Oh, yeah, they switched places, or Michael switched places with him. And why couldn't he speak? Because Michael crushed his larynx. Okay, so that explains why the person that was beheaded was not Michael, but some innocent person with I think 3 kids. I think they added the 3 kids. So that was
Yeah.
gosh, God. So anyway, and so that probably explains the trauma that is that's Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode at this,
Yeah.
leading to the final showdown between her and Michael, leading to the rooftop, and she had him with the rope and everything, and just about to, but no, the trauma of this uh, uh, this this chopping the head off the wrong person thing
Yeah.
that I accidentally did that was explained after the fact will let me just check doubles and as I oh no, I'm gonna ah
Yeah.
you know, mwah, see you in hell. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
yeah, and then the fall, the kind of red fall of that was very shocking to me.
Yeah.
The treatment of the Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode character was so shocking to me. And I mean, I get it. These films they're meant to maybe have surprises, and no character is immune from this type of treatment. I get that, but I don't know. There's just something about how much investment we had with the Laurie Strode character, in particular in H2O. There was
Yeah.
so much investment with her and the character in H2, and then suddenly to get this sudden 180 that was just it was so shocking to me, and it felt like and it left a really bad taste in my mouth that led into the rest of the movie. Because that
Yeah.
wasn't even the main part of the movie, right? I guess it led into the rest of the movie, which is going back to the Myers house and this whole thing with Buster Rhymes, whole setup with let's pick these three people. Oh, I'm excited to be part of this sort of online real time online. It's kind of like the real world. You remember that show on MTV? I
Yeah. Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
the real
Absolutely.
world, except in like some true crime household. And it's the Myers house. And lo and behold, we still have Michael Myers. I guess 3 years later, right
Yeah.
from the events of H2O. With but so for between then and now, he's been able to get a new mask or the same mask, but just be sure to get a little eyebrow pencil and just really
Yeah.
mark up the eyebrows because those are really strong eyebrows in his
Spa
mask
day.
now. Yeah, and it's amazing. But I mean, the mask. I think I make fun of the eyebrows, but I think the mask is not so bad. It's probably one of
It's
the
decent. Yeah.
yeah. I think it's one of the better parts of this film. Not to say again, it's not an absolute zero film for me. I
Yeah.
think there are some redeemable qualities to it, or not redeemable. I think there's some really fun qualities to it. There's some the guy who's trying to do like a Jack Nicholson impression, right?
Yeah.
And there's just the whole thing about right. I love Buster Rhymes in this. I think he's just that showdown. I mean, the showdown between Buster Rhymes and I was going to say Michael Keaton, the showdown between Buster Rhymes and Michael Myers
Uh,
is I think is I thought that was so great. I mean, it was more thrilling than the showdown between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers at the beginning, to be perfectly frank. And I wanted that
true.
thrill of I wanted Laurie Strode to be doing the kicks to the face, like
I know.
in the
Yeah.
fire. That would have been so on. But anyway, and then to have Laurie Strode say the line, "Trick or treat, mother," right? That would have been so awesome. But oh well, oh well. I mean, what we got is what we got, and
Mhm.
I know it's I know it's probably considered by many to be the on this or very maybe the bottom rung of the ladder or the this
Mhm.
this end of the list, so to speak. Not to say it's a terrible movie. There are some fun aspects of it. But it does seem like it is a bit monotone as well. It is
Yeah.
all pretty much in the house. One of the
Mhm.
aspects about Halloween films that I think are so great is sometimes you get really interesting setups and settings and great
Yeah.
use of decor. I don't really get that. It's like we're in a dark room, boom. We're in another dark room, boom. I mean, there's some scenes where he crashes through a mirror,
Yeah.
but then comes out. But then it would have been interesting to see some more variety, which is why I think the fireball sequence at the end I think really adds some spice to it. But
Mhm.
yeah, this is a film that, in terms of a Halloween film, I have trouble getting into,
Mhm.
especially with the way it starts. It does leave a pretty sour taste leading into the rest of the bulk of the film. But anyway, my number 13 is Halloween Resurrection. Would you want to say anything very briefly about this one?
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask you? Do you think how sacrilegious do you believe adding in comedy is to a very like a well respected, very most of the time serious franchise?
Oh, you mean intentional or non-intentional comedy?
I would say with this film's probably both. I would say, but I I think the filmmakers are probably laughing with us for a lot of it. But do you think comedy has anywhere to be in this in the Michael Myers franchise? In the
For me personally, I think yes.
Yeah.
I think yes, and we'll talk about it in the context of another film, which I think does the comedy, maybe unintentionally. It does the comedy bits, I think, much more successfully for me.
Mhm.
But how do you feel about that, by the way? To
Well, I think the, the let's say unintentional comedy
mm,
for me. I see. I try to think about it in a way. Maybe I like the "it's so bad it's good" too much, but maybe well I'll bring up because actually my number 12
please. Okay.
is
Yes.
also Halloween Resurrection. But there's some moments that just they make me chuckle, they make me laugh so much. It's so good. Like uh especially with Buster Rhymes. I put a note in my phone. Um once so there's a character that's known for his big thing is cooking, right? And when he has a standoff with Michael Myers towards the end in the kitchen of the Myers house, and he throws seasoning in Michael Myers' eyes. I died, bro. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, that's a
And
good point.
also, and Buster Rhymes at the end, there's like news reporters. They're like, "Oh, Mr. Buster Rhymes, how does this make you feel?" And he's like, "How does this make me feel? Feel this." And then it's so good. Yeah, it. Like I don't care how bad this movie is, but that just gives me life. Like it's so good.
That's a
It's
good
so good.
point. That's a
Yeah.
really good point. Yeah, actually, that helps to temper. Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm gonna be bringing up this in the context of another film later.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right. It is a tough. I think. How do you feel about the Laurie Strode sequence though in the beginning? Because I think if it weren't for that sequence, I think I would have a better time with this. I think for me that gave me such a bitter taste.
I feel like it totally destroys like the whole Laurie Strode of H2O. It really does. Like a completely different Laurie Strode from the two movies. But and I know the audience just from you can look at YouTube videos and stuff like that. Kind of I think I was watching something where Jamie Lee Curtis was like, I had to do the stupid part of resurrection so I could cut off his head in H2O. I think she said that, and she was like, I was fine doing Halloween H2O the way that we wanted with the decapitation scene. And then she was like, I straight up told people not to go see Halloween Resurrection. I was like, oh, well. Like, so,
And it's an interesting thing too because it's like going back to your comments about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
hmm
There is a kind of parallel way that Laurie Strode's character is treated or
hmm
handled or characterized. She is somewhat more maybe uh, she is very much affected in Halloween to Rob Zombie,
yeah,
and she has, in fact, affected by the really traumatic events of the earlier film.
yeah,
And so there's also the way that the film, again, depending on what version you're watching of Halloween 2, the Rob Zombie film, but the
hmm
implication is that also maybe in one form or another, she has also maybe reached the state of some kind of insanity
hmm
at the end of that film. And so there is a similar type of parallel with, especially in the theatrical cut of Halloween 2, the way
yeah,
that Laurie Strode ends up in that film
yeah,
versus how Laurie Strode begins in this film, Halloween Resurrection. So one could say,
absolutely.
yes, it's not like it's right that there could be some room for discussion about this is maybe consistent with the Laurie Strode character. Okay, I can get into that type of conversation, but
hmm
uh, right, I think even if I were to enter into that conversation, I would still be on the position that this type of characterization of Laurie Strode seems way different than what I had been, say, conditioned to expect and to believe upon finishing Halloween H2O.
Yeah.
So I felt like it felt too much of a bit of a brush off.
Yeah.
So it would have been interesting to get, and I don't mind the fact that she died or anything like that. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
it's that those sorts of things happen in these kinds of films, but there's just something about the characterization that I feel doesn't quite match, and that really irked me, I think. So,
Yeah.
but as you say, right? Perhaps it was beyond anyone's control in terms of right Jamie Lee Curtis and the like, because um, but it was it was a very interesting way of handling the situation. But in any event, but maybe if that wasn't there, I think I would have more of a good time with
I know.
Halloween Resurrection. But you're right,
Yeah.
absolutely right. There's some real funny moments, like the right, just the bit like they're in this kind of scary kind of catacomb like house, and suddenly they become kind of horny teenage. They want to like
Yeah.
get these dead bodies, and they're like, oh, what is this made into? You're like, what is going on? Oh, it's all
Yeah.
fake. It's all
Yeah.
fake. Oh, that's just
Yeah.
it's all, and but it's not fake because oh my god, and that's all this stuff. But uh, and the great way it ends, oh, we've got a celebrity here, Michael Myers. Michael Myers, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. So you're right. I think there's some fun bits with the resurrection. That's for sure. Well done. Well done. So
And
that's your number 12. So do you want to add anything more to the resurrection discussion here, please, as your number
j-
12?
maybe just a little bit more, but please, if I'm if I'm talking too much about one movie, please cut me off. I will say I got written down here that like actually Buster Rhymes fought Michael Myers with karate instead of an invisible fight against Freddy Krueger.
Oh,
You
is that
know.
a part four? Okay, part four reference.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
the Dream Master. Yes.
yeah. And then I have how bad Michael Myers' walk is in Resurrection. There's some parts where like you'll see him just walking, and you're like, man, that's a little rough. And I think I don't know about you, but the technology aspect, I think it took me out a little bit. That it would be when was it? I think it was in 2002. There's no way that they'd be able to get a show so streamlined like that with servers and stuff like that. And maybe I'm just overthinking it, but that takes me out a little bit too. I'm like, there's no way. Like they go to a party and pull up just like at that point, most people still had like AOL. So there's no way they're going to be able to stream Danger Team.
Sure, sure. And
you
then
know,
you're on the news. Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
Palm
Yeah,
Pilot.
yeah,
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 yeah. But
yeah,
I think those are, and then but it has also that type of what is it, that monitor setup, like Aliens, the James
yeah,
Cameron Aliens, like where's
yeah,
Apone, where's
yeah,
Apone, yeah, psh, a sergeant's got right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So it has that and then I love how like Tyra Banks looks away just at the right point when the first guy's got the thing and you know
yeah.
which is also like out of that could be a reference to Michael Powell film Peeping Tom. But anyway, but
Indeed,
so
yeah,
yeah, it has. I think it has those cool possibilities. That's for sure. But I get, yeah, I hear you. I hear it. It does. Maybe that type of film in particular has the risk of feeling the most dated in a kind of
hmm
ironic way. Even though it was made
yeah,
fairly recently. So you're absolutely right.
yeah,
All right, so number 12 for you is Halloween Resurrection. Okay. So what's that? That brings us to my number 12. Let's see.
yes,
So
sir.
my number 12 is we kind of switched it. My number 12 is actually, and I have the dual disc set here. Halloween
Oh,
2. Halloween 2,
oh,
Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. So that's right here. So I show this because this is my theatrical cut experience. I think this is the Blu-ray from Canada, so
hmm
it has the two films and one disc. So Halloween to Rob Zombie. So I I think this is a very admirable film in a lot of ways. It's very rough. It's quite brutal.
Mhm.
The Rob Zombie Halloween films tend to be very, very intense. Some of those violent scenes are really difficult to watch,
Yeah.
really, really difficult. And I think that is due to, among other things, the way in which they're shot. And Rob Zombie, I think, has a great sense of cinematic style, and it's just I wince like there's a bit when there's the accident on the road, and then the
Mm.
guy's stuck there, and then Michael just comes out of the van, right, having
Yep.
been resurrected here, and then goes over and just like does the thing with the head, and just oh man, there's a
Yeah.
close up of oh I didn't need to see it, so that was pretty intense, and that's an example of how it really gets under the skin
Yep.
in a in a in a kind of creepy way. And I do like the cynical way that the characters are represented. You mentioned um, Laurie, the way that
Mhm.
Laurie's represented here in Halloween 2,
Yeah.
as a type of almost unlikable in a lot of ways. And then also the same can be said for the Sam Loomis character too, as a type of just trying to uh, take advantage of the fame
Yeah.
and the like. Although he has a little bit of moral conscience at the end there, but it's just oh
Yeah.
it's just a thing. Well, I guess it depends on the version that you watch. But if you look
Yeah.
at the theatrical version, it's just oh my gosh, just Michael's like I thought I killed you in the first one, but what's going on? Just, that was the theatrical version there. Just by the end, just to be sure that Sam Loomis, you get a close up of all the things there, at least in the
Yeah.
theatrical version. And I think in the extended version, there's a little bit less of that, um, but the
Yeah.
circumstances of the climax are somewhat different. But yes, yes. So the characterizations I think are much more cynically derived or cynically depicted. But I think that's a real good choice because it does add certain dynamic. It is a very downbeat film in that way,
Yeah.
so maybe it does affect the rewatchability fun factor, quote unquote. But I
Mhm.
think it takes it in a very fascinating direction. But
Yeah.
the for instance, the relationship dynamic between, say, Laurie and Annie, for example, which I think is a really great, and there's some pretty. It's pretty rough. It's pretty painful to watch sometimes,
Yeah.
because these are characters that are very very likable, especially from the heritage of the first film, and then you realize that they have this really rocky relationship, which is heartbreaking, actually.
Yeah.
As and I mentioned too that there are some scenes that are very intense to watch, but there are other scenes too where the violence is actually not shown directly, but you feel like it's shown. And I would
Mhm.
say that the scene involving Annie,
Yeah.
right, Daniel Harris's character, is so that's like that's really difficult to watch, and you look
Yeah.
at it, and it's done so effectively with the cutting back and forth
Yeah.
in time, and and the discovery and the shock. That is probably one of the most heartbreaking moments in all of these films for me.
Yeah.
And not to mention, as you say, Brad Dourif, who's doing a great job here, and the discovery that scene, the discovery of what's happened to her in the extended cut. I think you also get a shot of the little dog, the young Daniel Harris and her dog.
Yeah.
Which is even more. That's really putting more emphasis on it. But so there's I think this is so rich in those ways, and I must say that the uh, the whole way of approaching Michael Myers, which is adding on to the exponentially to what was the effect of the first film, which is seeing where he came from,
Yeah.
sense, and not just seeing where he came from, seeing how he thinks in the moment now, with the white horse and the mother vision in white. Now, I think that is a very bold choice, and it will, I think, remain a very controversial choice among a lot of
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
I go back and forth on it. I go back and forth on it whenever I watch these films. I think sometimes I'll feel like it works, and other times I feel like it is maybe one step too far removed from what I might be used to in terms of the Michael Myers legend as I like to watch it on screen.
Yeah.
So, because what it does is it does diminish the scare factor. It does diminish that in favor of a more, say, characterization. of who this person is, right? When we get to some of the
Yeah.
other films like Halloween Kills or something, there's this thing about the personification of evil, or perhaps non-personification, trying to create it less of a person, more of
Yeah.
a thing. But here, the emphasis is on um, the person of Michael Myers. That's a bold choice. Now,
Yeah.
in that way, how does it fall in a film ranking of start talking about Halloween and the like? Again, there will be other films that I will be talking about that maybe have less to do with Michael Myers than this film, Halloween 2, but I might have them
Yeah.
higher up on my list. But I think for me, this film is not so scary.
Yeah.
This film feels like a sort of psychological drama, a very intense one, a very
Mhm.
but I think that therefore makes it for me. I'm always trying to struggle with, and again, I haven't figured out the answer in my own head yet, but I'm trying to struggle with how do I mesh these two things together, which seem that they connect sometimes, but then they are disconnected the other times. Namely, this idea of establishing the psychological basis for Michael Myers in the present
Yeah.
versus the sort of slasher film vibe. And I think it works sometimes, but then there are other times when I think it maybe I need to work with it a bit more. But that's where I
Yeah.
am with Halloween 2, Rob Zombie. So I think it's a really admirable endeavor, and if anything, it is. I think it's bold that it takes it in this direction. But again, I'm still having trouble with a number of maybe trying to fit it together in a lot of places. As I say, some of the turns seem a bit too abrupt. Like I'll take Sam Loomis as an example. I like the cynical Sam Loomis, but
Yeah.
then there's a certain turn that happens, I think, at the end, which is
Yeah.
it feels like a bit too contrived in order to be able to set up the final climax with the helicopter and everything like that. It's
Yeah.
that sort of thing is an example of where I feel like it feels a bit too abrupt.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting to have it one way or the other, or I need to try to work with it more to see how I can mesh these things, these seemingly different ends together. But that's how I
Yeah.
feel with about Halloween 2 at the moment. That's just why
Yeah.
I have it at my number 12.
But that's a great point, man, because they even I think it's a really powerful scene too. The book signing where it has the father comes out with the gun. Maybe if there was just like a little bit more, maybe one more scene that could have like really shown Loomis that he was, he's doing these horrible things, getting this blood money and stuff like that. But I do agree. I think, not quite fair.
Yeah, yeah, and then I must say to the versions, I think I go with the theatrical version
Yeah.
over the extended cut. Like the extended cut at the end, they basically shoot Laurie down, um, and right after the assumption being that she might be going there and about to. We're not sure if she's going to do it or not, but she might
Yeah.
go and do something to Sam Loomis and just suddenly and then no, and then that's it. And then it goes into the little like which I like the ending too, like the one side is a
Yeah.
yeah, that's really cool. But
Yeah.
it's an interesting. Again, I think it's a bold way of depicting Laurie Strode, and I like this approach because it feels like it feels organically connected to what occurred to her in the earlier film.
Yeah.
Unlike how I feel about the juxtaposition between Laurie Strode at H2O and Laurie Strode at Resurrection. But anyway,
Yeah.
yes, Halloween, Rob Zombie. But I'm struggling with it in a number of ways that makes it for me my number 12. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. 13 and 12, we have them switched on our
Yeah.
lists. But let's go to now number 11. What's your number 11,
So
please?
this one might be this might get me chewed out off the internet. I got Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers.
Okay.
I don't I, something about this rewatch this past time that it just um, they they set up a lot of things that it felt slow. It just felt a little uneven to me. Um, but there's one thing that we can say. We were talking about how Laurie Strode in H2O and Laurie Strode in Resurrection. I feel the same way about God. What's her uh, Jamie's sister in here, how
Yeah.
she was so strong and everything, and Rachel in part four,
Oh, Rachel.
and
Okay.
then
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then in part five, it's the first 15 minutes, man. You know, and then they have to try to kind of bring
Tina.
in these Tina. I know,
Yeah.
and I feel so bad for that actress that she probably gets so annihilated anywhere she goes, like conventions and stuff like that. But I don't think that's necessarily her fault. But I think she's pretty much known as quote unquote an annoying character for a lot of the fan base. Um, so I feel like they just made their job harder by trying to add in all these new characters, um, just to try to get almost the same feeling as part four. Um, but shining star is always Donald Pleasance, and he's amazing. And I feel like just the same with Brad Dourif. I wish I could watch. I'd watch him do a crossword puzzle, and says the evil is gone from here, and just do that the whole movie.
Halloween 5. Yeah, I'll have some more things to say about that as well. It's a little bit higher on my list, but
Hmm.
yeah, I understand what you say about it. I think it's especially coming off of the heels again. These things too, the what happened in the previous film, which set expectations so high, and then we go to
Yeah.
Halloween 5, which I think is I think it's reasonable to look at Halloween 5 as being maybe somewhat of a letdown, especially after the setup of Halloween 4, right?
Hmm.
Especially at the end of Halloween 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll speak a little bit more about Halloween 5 a little bit later. It's a little bit higher on my list. I think
Okay.
there's some
But that's
interesting
good.
things to say about it. But you're right that there's some, especially the comedy, which you bring up as well.
The
I think a
cops.
lot of comedy. Yeah, the cops,
It's so like
the
the
boing, yeah, the music. Oh wow, it's amazing, absolutely amazing, and oh gosh, and the like, just little Tina. We'll talk about Tina too,
yeah.
and right the Rachel and just like she's just getting out of the shower. She's get out of there. She's just running out with her, just running out like the towel into the next door neighbor's house, and then this stuff like the thing about the cookies, and well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So there's a lot of things to say about it, but no, totally understand. I totally get it. I think yeah, Halloween 5. It's it's a again it has 5 in the title, so that means it goes from 4. So
Mhm.
there's that feeling in the air. I totally understand. So, but that is your number. What, number 11?
Yes.
Okay, number 11 is Halloween 5. So very good. So my number 11 is, and I'm gonna have to go here back here. My number 11 is this again.
Oh.
This one is Halloween. Rob Zombie Halloween. And so again, very similarly to the comments that I had about Halloween 2, Rob Zombie. Halloween Rob Zombie is, I think, another very admirable effort. I think it's really uh it's doing something about a quote unquote remake or a reboot, which I think is very, very admirable, which is really putting a unique spin on a tale that I think is very, very, very well known. It's almost like legend in the horror film space,
Yeah.
which is the story of Michael Myers. But all the beats feel familiar, but they are also done in a very unique, different twist way,
Yeah.
with the emphasis on Michael Myers as a type of human being. Now, this has always been the crux for me, which is does it work in this way or doesn't it? And I think sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't for me. Sometimes because how should I put it? Because I feel like it is giving me again. I feel like I'm being pulled in two separate directions, and I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure how to reconcile it in my own being. Which is, am I supposed to sympathize, or am I supposed to look at this as a type of inhuman machine type of stalker monster?
Yeah.
So, and I feel like the film is trying, and sometimes really effectively, to try to straddle the two positions, which I think is really difficult to do,
Yeah.
um, to create sympathy on the one part for someone or some being that we're meant to be feel as the total ultimate antagonist, I don't mean anti-hero, but I mean
Yeah,
like a real difference in, is a hulking beast versus a type of maybe sympathetic, uh, someone who had some pretty rough beginnings as a young boy, and then it turned out really violently in a lot of ways. But so those it's sometimes really hard for me to grapple with that,
yeah,
because I feel like I'm being pulled in different directions. But I do find it, again, a very admirable take on it. I do like the way that there are certain twists on the tale. If I had to choose, I would probably choose the theatrical version over the extended version. I think the
same.
extended version goes a little bit. There are some real differences, especially when Michael breaks out of prison. There's a different way that happens. I think the theatrical cut is more effective, actually, in
Yeah,
showing that.
yeah.
But yeah, please, what do you think?
Oh no, and if you don't mind, I'm gonna, because that's my next pick too. So
Okay. Okay. So this is your number, what, number 10?
number 10, you
Okay,
know.
go for it. Go for it, my friend.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
No, no, but I absolutely agree, because sometimes, like, you like, if you got something like a Frankenstein's monster that you can clearly see, like, this thing was created, and then the tone of it doesn't change. So you
Mm,
can, you kind of feel the same way about it the whole movie. Um, but this I prefer the theatrical as well, and not even from, I understand the unrated cut if Rob Zombie's more of like a 70s grindhousey, like I Spit on Your Grave. Like, I understand his influence maybe for that, like the two different breakout scenes. But I just think from an entertainment point of view, if you're going to see a slasher movie, like, you get that it's a higher body count. Honestly, for me, um, the escape in the theatrical cut. Plus, you get to see the Devil's Rejects and all the people working there. You're like, oh hey, I know them. This is an
yeah.
extra Rob Zombie lore here.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about Rob Zombie's films overall? I'm a fan of his films, for the most. I think they're really fascinating. Well, how do you feel about them?
Me too. I think the only one that I haven't seen is the Monsters. So
Mm,
then that might
yeah,
be the most divisive out of
I
all
haven't
of
seen
his
that
films.
either. Yeah,
Yeah. But as I love A House of a Thousand Corpses, I love The Devil's Rejects. I think that's, maybe the prime time uh Rob Zombie films right there. Um and even 31, I didn't think, I try to keep my just with horror, we get burned a lot. So our expectations, like, I try to keep them low in everything that I try to watch. Um, so when you're getting a movie like 31, kind of this like grindhousey, like high violence, high gore, maybe like you're getting more of like a with like a death race kind of vibe, like
mm,
how that movie was made, like Roger Corman, like low budget. So you got to kind of take that in mind. So
mm,
I think his aesthetic is kind of something that's my vibe. So I
yeah,
think I tend to be more on the positive than negative.
yeah. I think too. I think his aesthetic, cinematic aesthetic, is really
It's
is quite
cool. Like,
remarkable. Yeah,
yeah,
and it's very striking.
yeah,
And I think it suits the Halloween universe in his films. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm disparaging them. I think there's some really exciting and innovative things about them, incredibly
yeah,
so. But and very creative in a lot of ways. But again, it's just this push and pull that I have.
yeah,
Um, and so I feel like there is I don't know, maybe I have to reckon with that better on my own side. But I think, um, what was I going to say to uh, just I think the violence too is really quite startling. I mean, it's
hmm,
again the beginning moments with it's that is incredibly disturbing and really unsettling. And then there's a sudden burst of it. It just goes, I think, really brutal.
yeah,
The Michael Myers character in these two films are really brutal.
yeah,
But and so that type of brutality really it's striking. It's so extreme, which makes the sort of sympathetic side even more jarring to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that means it would have been interesting if he's so sympathetic with the shots with him. I like the scenes with him and Sam Loomis. I thought that was really interesting,
Was good.
and
Yeah.
that then maybe I was trying to think like nice Michael Myers. What would nice like Michael Myers? Maybe skipping down the street and
Yeah.
shaking hands with everyone, say how are you
Yeah.
doing, and
Yeah. He's
shaking hands.
better.
Yeah, shaking hands, and he's so happy. It's like the Frankenstein monster, right? He's so happy,
Yeah.
and he accidentally doesn't know his own strength. He's shaking hands with the storekeeper. He's like, he
Yeah.
breaks his hand or something like
Yeah.
that. And he doesn't know what happened. He's just walking in, and like people are, grown up Lonnie or something are trying to oh, they're gonna
Yeah.
get you, and just goes at it. So that would have been an interesting take, maybe, in
Yeah.
terms of that, rather than he's automatically one extreme or the other. But anyway,
Yeah.
anyway,
And
uh,
I gotta give it to Rob Zombie for going in, and I feel like both of his movies, like instead of making a movie about what we'll see later on in the series about Laurie or about the protagonist, I feel like he went in, and I got to give him credit for making a movie about the antagonist. About
yeah,
like these are Michael Myers movies, not like Haddonfield movies, not Laurie Strode movies, not Danielle Harris, Jamie movies. These are like, and I feel like the first half of Halloween, the remake, is what gets me entertained, and it's the second half that like
mm,
he's
mm,
trying to dial in these extra characters. I'm like, dude, you just built up this movie about Michael Myers, and now you have to like backtrack and like have these people try to care about Laurie and her friends.
yeah. That's a
So
good point.
you know,
Yeah.
so you made it hard for yourself because
Mm.
unless you want to make like a 4 hour movie.
And it's tough, but it's tough too because that's part of the expectation of the film
Yeah,
Halloween, right?
yeah,
That it needs to have those beats in the second half. But as I
yeah.
think the first half too is really fascinating. Like the scenes with, I thought it's the Sam Loomis character with Malcolm, right? Malcolm McDowell, I thought was really,
Really good.
really, really good,
Yeah,
and it's almost so sympathetic, even though he does have this sort of maybe attention grabbing sensibility about him even now, which is
yeah.
even more pronounced in the second film. But
Mhm.
I think he has a certain connectivity with Michael, which I thought was great. Which in many ways you think to yourselves, the doctors in these films. There's him, there's Sartain in the David Gordon Green one, and then there's of
Mhm.
course Donald Pleasance. So which if you had to choose which doctor to go to, which one would you choose? I don't know about was it the doctor in the Halloween David Gordon Green
Uh-huh.
is like or something like that, or Sam Loomis is like you say. I mean, you do a better Sam Loomis Donald Pleasance than I, but it's like you don't know what death is,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But this one, Sam Loomis, right? Malcolm, he seems pretty like approachable. Like I'd like to have him
Yeah.
as my doctor. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how you feel, but
No, no, definitely. He seems like a more like reassuring, like because you do feel like, oh, maybe he can kind of get to this kid. Maybe he can try to break through. But then you see, young Michael keeps on putting on the masks.
yeah.
He's kind of like delving deeper and deeper, and then you feel for him where he's like, dude, you haven't spoken a word in like 15 years. I'm trying to move on with my life. I love you, but I'm out. Like,
Yeah. And I think here we have the great kind of question of Michael Myers films or the Halloween films, which is, what are the great head crushing scenes? I mean, we saw, I think, a little bit of head crushing in Halloween Resurrection.
yeah,
I want to say we get some head crushing in Halloween 4, maybe. Uh,
maybe my favorite personally
yeah,
one.
yeah. And then, but here we get one, but it kind of doesn't work because he's okay, right? If
Yeah,
we go for Halloween 2, but I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So there's that, and also I want to mention too. It's great to. I think it's great to see all the cameos in this. I think it has so many great cameos. So
yeah,
many great cameos.
yeah,
It's amazing, and I think the performances as well in terms of the characterizations of Laurie and I like that and to see. I mean, I think Brad Dourif and I think perhaps one of the great. I don't even think we call it a cameo, but it's to see Daniel Harris in this performance again.
yeah,
It's mind bending,
yeah,
really, really mind bending. It's almost like you would have loved to have seen. It's like seeing Donald Pleasance play Michael Myers, in a sequel. It's
yeah,
like it's what's going on here. My mind
yeah,
is just being. It's absolutely incredible. But anyway, That's Halloween. So that was your number 10, right?
That was my number 10.
Okay,
Sorry.
so that no, 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 that's just great. Perfect, perfect. So, I'm gonna have to go, let's see, for my number 10, which is okay, which is here. Yes. Number 10 is, I'm so sorry about this. It's this one here. All right. Can you see it?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The Curse of Michael
Interesting.
Myers. Yes, this is my number 10. So,
Interesting.
I know this film has its fans, and
Oh yeah.
right. I think this film is ambitious and epic,
Yeah.
really ambitious and really epic, and I love the way it's trying to tie up so many quote unquote loose ends.
Mhm.
We see the return of a character from the earlier, Win, and oh, uh, let's share a whiskey, doctor, and talk about old times. You're my good
Yeah.
pal. I'm the beat,
Yeah.
it's yeah. So and then
Yeah.
so there's Win,
Ah, ah, ah.
and then, of course, the ending with the of Halloween 5 and the Man in Black, what's going on there, and I think
Yeah.
it picks up the thread, and wow, and then people who are watching it for the first time, like, wow, is this Paul Rudd's in this, and that sort of,
Yeah.
so it has that appeal to it very much so,
Yeah.
um, and I think it has it has a sort of, it's almost like, it feels to me like, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. It's the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom of the Michael Myers films, because it
Okay.
has that, like, action adventure vibe to it for
Yeah.
me. Going into the sanitarium and the hallways and the cult and Thorn,
Yeah.
and it feels like, the 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 heroes versus the cult, rather
Yeah.
than the heroes versus Michael Myers. And I feel that more pronounced in the producer's cut than I do in the theatrical cut, which is why I
Yeah.
think in a lot of ways I prefer actually the theatrical cut more than the, I mean, I think the producer's cut makes it clearer in terms of the way that the delineation of the Thorn thing,
Yeah.
and the figure of the cult, and Michael Myers is kind of like a kind of a just a soldier of the cult, rather than
Yeah.
his own, like, the shape, as it were. But
Yeah.
which is what this is, I think that boils down to, which is why I have it here. I think it has some great menacing moments, in terms of the mother and the sheets and the way that she goes out, very effective.
Yeah.
Um, in the theatrical cut, it's got the great scene with the syringe and the green goo, which I think is very
Yeah.
effective. And it does thing it goes in a completely different direction, but still feels somewhat organic to the fifth film, because of the way the fifth film ends, which I think also
Mhm.
is very, which is, again, my main thing with Resurrection. It feels too inorganic, but I
Yeah.
feel like here it feels organic, which is why I have it higher up. Now, that being said, it I think it's just, I have such a hard time following it, and then that's on me. It just feels like
Me too, though. Yeah.
sudden, like, just from Halloween 5. Okay, I get it. There's this mysterious guy, seems to break Michael out of the jail cell at the very end. Okay, I can kind of get it. And suddenly, boom, thorn, stones, the tattoo, boom, 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 all
Yeah.
these things going on. Oh, and, oh, Tommy Doyle, Tommy Doyle. Yeah, so and suddenly all this just boom, 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 and then that I feel that, just so intensified in the producer's cut,
Mhm.
and I know people prefer the producer's cut, but again, I just like, uh, let's right. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it as well, but the Stones. Do you prefer the Stones? With Michael, and Michael stops,
I
and
prefer the
that's it.
theatrical. Yeah.
Or he's just like
Yeah.
stabbing him, but
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
the theatrical, you don't get the whole thing about, now it's, wins, like, oh,
Yeah.
and you don't get the great moment with Sam Loomis,
Ah!
and I love the jump. He's like this. Maybe I'm not an actor, but I
Uh-huh.
would think there's this thing about, like going here, and then going, the beginning point is here and the end point is,
Uh-huh.
so you think there
Yeah.
must be some way of getting, like, slowly, gradually, but no, no, not for Donald Pleasance. Not
No.
for no. He's like looking here.
No. No.
Yes, and then this being the final moment of the film, which is right. I
Mhm.
guess, in terms of the producer's cut, that wasn't seen until much later, right? Officially speaking, but
Yeah. Yeah.
right at
Yeah.
the end, you have that great scene. "I've got some unfinished business to do," and the scroll down with them.
Like,
right? And then kind
yeah.
of ambiguous what happens, but so in that way, I prefer the producer's cut. But yeah, there is a lot of information here in terms of Thorn and what have you,
Mhm.
and uh, maybe the character of Jamie also feels like it would have been interesting to see Daniel Harris appear, but again, I've seen some of the interviews that she's done, and I can kind of uh, catch up with
Understand.
yeah,
Yeah.
what were the circumstances, or I think I know,
Yeah.
uh, but there is an ambiance here that is undeniable. Michael Myers, I think, is like a hulking mass of just get out of his way, go,
Beefy, dude.
yeah,
Beefy.
yeah, just intense stuff. So
Yeah.
and I think the hulking Michael Myers is great here. I just feel sometimes it feels less of a Michael Myers film and more of a Thorn cult film with
Yeah.
Michael Myers as their main go-to guy.
Yeah.
So that's why I have it somewhat higher up, or some, a number my number 10. But how do you feel? Maybe very briefly, or oh my goodness.
We're a little in sync on here, bud. Yeah.
Well, okay,
So
okay. Please.
so
So
let's see.
this is what this is your number 9 then?
My number 9. Yeah.
Okay, go for it. Go for it, my friend.
So I gotta give it to him. I thought the mask was. I'm gonna try to get some of the good parts. So the mask, um, great head explosion with the dad, like when he's electrocuting the dad in the basement in the laundry room. I was like, I remember because Halloween 6 was one of the ones I found that was getting syndicated a lot on TV, because I remember I
Mm,
had Halloween 2 and Halloween 6 on VHS, like recorded off a
mm.
cable, and I never got to see the head explosion. So the first time when I like rented it I was like in total, horror movie nerd. Like I was in like Nirvana because there was a head explosion I didn't know about. So, um, but some of the things, like the dad is probably the worst character out of every Halloween movie. He's
Even the
so
Rob Zombie movies, right?
I
There's some pretty
know,
despicable, yeah, but he beats those. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
like,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
I'm
I
sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
no, because like, but I have to give it to the screenwriters, because I feel like I feel like I've met people like that in my life. As sad as that sounds, but I felt like like when I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is escalating. So I have to give Halloween 6 its the beginning drama part within the family. I have to give them credit for that, because I do think that's one of the shining stars of the whole movie. Before it gets a little too into the thorn, like that family drama, I can, you know, I can get on with. And when the dad comes home and to see that his wife is gone, he's like, she really left, you
Yeah.
know. So I got to give them that. They're pretty good acting chops on that. They I bought a ticket.
Yeah, and then there you're right. There are, I think, some really uh again, this is a really entertaining film.
Yeah,
It feels like it feels so top heavy. There's so much stuff going on.
yeah,
Um and it reminds me too, like when we it reminds me this is a Halloween film, but it reminds me too how so genius the first film was in its simplicity.
yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
it's so and now we have these again. It's this thing about sequels. I totally get it,
yeah.
but
Because it makes you feel like, with other sequels, like how much of a backstory reveal does it take to kind of, until you're taking away? Because you got your kind of like perfect sequels, like you got, I think Dream Warriors is a perfect sequel, so it
mm,
adds to the mythos without any other baggage to it.
yeah,
But by the time you get to like something like a Freddy's Dead, like too much backstory, is that, like, I think that kind of has, that's a difficult waters to tread, and I feel like they maybe not got everything out of this particular sequel.
yeah. I think so too. This was around the time, right, of that type of vibe. This was around. I want to say this was around Freddy's Dead time, maybe a little bit later. I don't know,
Yeah, same,
but
relatively a couple years. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. But there were those films that were somewhat trying to maybe totally go in a different direction. Not to say that this does,
hmm
but arguably it does because it
yeah,
does feel like it does feel like a different like dimension
yeah.
than Halloween 5. Even though I understand the continuity of the story, but it does feel somewhat like I feel that way about like Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. That film feels like a completely different world than
Then the
what we
other
saw in
ones.
Nightmare 5, or even Jason Goes to Hell: The Final Friday. I feel, or
Yeah,
Jason X, I suppose. Well, I guess Jason X is more like Halloween Resurrection than anything. But anyway, well, I guess
yeah.
that's the thing too.
Very
I was
true
going to
though.
say, I forgot to say about my Halloween Resurrection. I guess it would have been interesting to see Michael Myers in space or something. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
and again, I like Jason X. So I like. I
Me
would.
too.
I mean that very sincerely. Actually, it would be
Me
great to see
too.
Michael Myers in space. Flying. You
Yeah,
know, and
it's
then
fun. I feel like
yeah,
it's a fun. You know.
yeah, and maybe flying, and maybe he lands on the moon. His body lands on the moon, and like the astronauts land, and like he like wakes up, and like and like everyone's doing the slow motion gravity, but he's like
Yeah,
flying.
yeah,
That was so cool. Michael Myers on the but anyway, Michael Myers on the moon. You
yeah,
know. And then maybe Sam Loomis is on Earth watching the broadcast. Oh,
yeah.
the
Like,
evil is gone.
it's gone from here.
Anyway, but what was it? Yeah, so Curse of Michael Myers.
hmm
So, what cut do you prefer, by the way? Did
I, d-
you?
I do prefer the theatrical
Oh,
cut for that
you
one too.
mentioned that. Yeah, I apologize. You did
Yeah,
say that. Yes. So the theatrical. Me too. Me too.
but
Yeah.
that really can just be nostalgia though. Like because I have them. I feel like out of all the different cuts, I feel like they're the two
Hmm.
most similar for me. Even though they're my preference of them are similar, but they're vastly different, like storylines. But if I'm gonna pop it in, I feel like it's like every other time I'll watch the different cut.
And I think I want to give a shout out here to the great character of Sam Loomis in this film.
Yeah,
Halloween, right? Halloween or Halloween 6 or Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers.
yeah,
How many times has Sam Loomis died in these films?
I know.
He
Like,
kind of died at the end of 5, kinda, I think. But he's like, "I'm very alive, just retired."
yeah,
And just and like he kind of died in 2. He
I know
really
what
died in 2,
you
but he
really not.
just yeah, yeah, he just came back. I'm still alive.
Yeah,
Yeah, just and
yeah.
we'll talk about 4 when we get to 4 there, but
hmm
I don't know. I need to drink whatever it is he's drinking. Whatever he's having, it's
The
working
fu-
cuz yeah.
he's got a lot of beets in his diet, like the
Yeah.
celery juice. He's really just like getting it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe when they were, both at Smith's Grove, maybe something in the Smith's Grove cafeteria, they're
That
they're
little
putting
magic
something in that
tonic.
made both of them, Michael
Yeah,
and Emily, was like eternal or something. I don't know.
yeah. That meatloaf surprise.
But gosh, that's why it's great. They can't die.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there's that. So that yeah, just kudos to. I mean, this is right. Curse of Michael Myers too. The final performance of Donald Pleasance. So
Yeah.
but I think it's a really tender performance, and I think he's doing it in a way that he is much calmer here than he was in Halloween 5.
Yeah. And it was
And
nice
that
to see.
it was. I
Fun.
agree. It was really nice to see. I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah. So anyway, Curse of Michael Myers. So that's your number 9.
Yes, sir.
And so I have to go to now my number 9 as well. So I'm going to go to um, a more recent film. And here I'm going to be pulling out from my, I got this, which is the Halloween
Oh
trilogy,
man.
which
Let
is
me get a
that.
good look at that.
Yeah, the Halloween trilogy uh, tin set from Best Buy. And these
Oh,
have
that's
steel
nice,
books
dude.
in them. And so I'm going to have to pull out the steel book, which is, here we go. Da, 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 da.
Oh,
That's my number
okay.
9, which is Halloween Kills. So
Interesting.
Halloween Kills is my number 9 because um, I think this is we're now going into David Gordon Green territory, Blumhouse and the recent films and the alternate alternate timeline ish kind of. But uh, I didn't see this in the theater. I saw it later on Blu-ray, and then now I was able to get this 4K Steelbook edition. When I first saw it, I thought it was really good.
Hmm.
It had some flaws, but I thought it was really good. I think because the opening was perhaps one of the best openings I had seen in the whole series, especially when it goes back to 1978 and what happens to Michael after the end of the first film, because the whole conceit of these films is that it's the first film and then it goes into this timeline without regard to anything from part two onwards.
Hmm.
But so we get the continuity of what happens after Michael's fallen out or shot and fallen out of the house there, and he's and then we see what happened with Lonnie, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And the way that was tied up in that way, and the way that we see him sort of apprehended and arrested, and then goes into the titles, Halloween Kills, and with the morphing pumpkins and the yeah,
Yeah.
so it was interesting. I thought, but the opening was really quite fantastic in my view.
Yeah.
And so, and then getting into the Michael Myers in real Michael Myers, I mean, he is, I don't know what he's taking. He's taking some kind of
Jail time.
classes or something, but he is just, he's just got the thing, just the
Yeah.
fire and just all over the place. And he's smart too. He hid behind the shutter in the
Hmm.
basement there's to block from the fire, and he's just all over the place. And that's insane. So that was a great setup. So that I was really into that, and then seeing some uh, seeing the more of the masks and more Halloween 3 shout outs. It was great. It was really
Yeah.
great, and seeing some aspects of the hospital, which had some tie-ins with Halloween 2, which we'll
Mhm.
talk about a little later. So it's great. I thought it was a great setup. And then we get into the second half, and we go slowly into the second. We get into like Tommy's character and Talori, and then we get Lonnie and what happened to him, and we get. I mean, I like to pick up with the Cameron character and the like, because we that was something that was just a bit of a. That was a something that was left off from the earlier film, which I like the way that this film tries to tie up loose ends, even from the earlier films, and like the friend, I forget his name, the friend from the first film who was, I thought you liked him. And he's like, and you see I
Yeah.
think his mom, like, oh, he's my, in this
I
film, it's
know.
like, oh, wow, you're tying up you're tying up this loose end as well. That's amazing. So the
Yeah.
diligence of the writers and the creatives who tried to tie up all these loose ends, and even the guy, the inmate who escaped with the umbrella from the first film, he's the
Yep.
guy who they mistake for Michael Myers in this one. So they even tie up that loose end, which is remarkable.
Yeah.
And he's like, you feel so bad for him at the end when the mob is about to crash through and he jumps off there and he kills him. It's really sad, actually, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's the wrong guy. But okay, but that brings me to where I think upon rewatch of this film, I kind of, it's starting to lose me a little bit, which is, and we've talked a little bit about this offline, which is the dialogue.
Yeah.
Dialogue. I mean, the plot beats I think are really great. I think are really
Yeah.
great. It's just dialogue. It just really, I don't know what it is. Um, but every person speaks like it's a trailer tagline. Every line feels like a trailer tagline. I mentioned like Michael is a curse on this town. The darkness came with Michael, and now it has awakened something deep within. Evil dies tonight.
Yeah.
Evil, and even they not only they even chant it, right? Like evil dies tonight. Evil dies tonight.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. I mean, that when Halloween 3 Season of the Witch came out, there's a whole thing about the Silver Shamrock song, which people thought, oh my goodness, it's so annoying. It's so now it's one of the greatest things in the world. Oh my
I
goodness.
know. Yeah.
I think the chant of it does in this film, I think is for me, it's
The nails on
just,
the chalkboard.
oh,
Yeah.
it's too much, I think. And again, those are some. difficult things for me in a film which I think has a lot of positive things, and so
Yeah.
that's why it's for me at this point number 9. But I think everyone speaks. Suddenly, everyone is talking like they're Sam Loomis.
Yeah.
In the first film, people Sam Loomis was talking like that all the time, like and uh, you know
And everybody else was like,
yeah,
"Who is
what
this
why are you
guy?"
talking? Yeah, yeah, right,
Yeah.
right, and Sheriff Bracker's like, yeah, okay, and
Yeah.
even at the beginning of I shot him 6 times. I
Yeah.
shot him 6 times. He's not human. Yeah, yeah, just get in the car. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I shot him 6 times.
Yeah.
They loop the same line. I shot him
Yeah.
6 times. And it's just yeah, 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 yeah. Come on, let's go. Yeah. No, but yeah, so no one is like yeah. So I have that attitude, like, but everyone's speaking like that. Everyone's
Yeah.
speaking, and so I just oh my goodness, oh my goodness, it's like what happened? Maybe Sam Loomis is maybe he's like Pazuzu, and Sam Loomis is possessing all the people in
Yeah.
Haddonfield. So everyone's speaking like Sam Loomis. So it's just again, it's a bit much for me.
Yeah.
I do enjoy it quite a lot. I find it very entertaining, very scary in a lot of places, and very innovative, especially that beginning. But again,
Yeah.
it does get a bit somewhat grating in a lot of areas. But again, it's a film that I've seen somewhat recently, but still quite entertaining all the same. So that's my number 9, Halloween Kills.
All right. That was good. I like that we got a little bit of Halloween Kills on this one too.
But this is your number 8.
This is my number 8. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. We
So I
didn't
feel like
plan this, by the way, right? We
no, no,
didn't.
no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. So, but anyway, please.
So
This
yeah,
is so
so
cool.
so
Mm.
Halloween Kills. I'm gonna take a moment for Big John and Little John. They're up there.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
They're great. They're great.
They're
Yeah.
yeah,
Anyone who's gonna buy the Myers house,
Big John and
like,
Little John all day.
yeah, yeah, and then use it to scare off kids
Yeah,
on
and
Halloween of
the
all
kids of
times. Yeah,
Haddonfield are off the chain too, man.
yeah,
These
yeah,
kids are awful. Like
yeah. Yeah,
so,
Big
and I
John, Little
gotta
John. Yes, I agree. I agree. Yes, yes.
and I have to say because the I watched it yesterday, the Halloween Kills, and I had never seen the uncut version of Big John getting killed with his eyes.
Oh
That was
yeah,
intense.
yeah.
Because I believe it cuts away. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, in the theatrical. Um, and yeah, so the first thing I have on here is like the the second half of the movie. If they could have just like cut all the dialogue and just had the soundtrack, I think I would have been fine. You know, um, but but the soundtrack really is good. Like having John Carpenter back on board with his son, and I can't remember the third person, but the soundtracks to all three of these movies are really really good. And I
I
really
agree.
like the mask too.
Yeah.
Because in the 2018, I was a little on the fence, but then I saw in the flashbacks they had the mask painted the matte white, and
Yep.
then it comes back. I was like, man, I just love like
Yeah.
and I thought it was a CGI Donald Loomis at first, but then having it was a guy in prosthetics, I was like, man, like I remember being
Mm.
in a movie theater like so excited. I was like, it's Loomis, like
Has he killed again? He
yeah,
killed again, and like
yeah,
I'm not gonna say that I killed.
yeah,
It wasn't me. It was yeah, yeah. He did it again. Yeah,
yeah,
it's great. It was absolutely great. Yeah, yeah. And I like the bit where you mentioned the mask here. You're right. Even has some burn damage there, which is kind of like Jaws 2. You know Jaws 2.
yeah,
You know the shark with the
yeah.
burn scars. It's kind of got the Jaws 2 thing going
It's got
for
a
it.
little baggage, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're right about the mask. It's really effective. Yeah.
And there's some things about the dialogue, like at the end of the movie. So Laurie Strode's daughter, I think her name's Karen. Like, um, and I don't want to give away anything on when we talk about the other movies, but there's in all three of these movies there's a trick at the end of the movie, which I thought it was really cool. Like they're playing. There's something that Michael Myers isn't expecting by. I think it's by maybe it's all three daughters, but they kind of trick him.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they kind
That's
of,
right.
and we'll talk about that when it comes to the other movies, but there's always just like oh, I got you moment with Michael
Mm,
Myers. But for some reason, Karen, she always talks about like, oh, Michael, they're standing outside of the Myers house. And they're like, 40 years ago, you killed your sister. And he's like, bro, I know, I did it. Like, why are you telling, why are you telling the audience all of this
yeah,
backstory again? That was
yeah,
kind of killing me. I was
yeah,
like, we all know what Michael Myers did. He knows. Why are you telling him? Like, uh, and then of
yeah.
course when they kind of she lures him in to this big crowd of where
Yep.
he gets pretty pummeled, and you have the lady with the iron. That's a meme right now. It's absolutely hilarious. She's just standing there with the iron, some guy with a hockey stick. And then
Yeah.
but yeah, that was
Yeah.
kind of my, like, some of the dialogue like that. I agree, it goes with the evil dies tonight. Like, some leave some things ambiguous, like let the audience kind of like figure out how these characters are feeling right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It was yeah, it was an interesting way of. I think the ending. I think it right. It was trying to set up because it was already a trilogy by then.
Yeah.
So it was just how to. We'll talk about the other film, I'm sure later. But
Hmm.
yeah, Halloween Kills. So that's great. So this is great. So this is your number eight,
My number
right?
8, yeah.
Okay. So now that means I'm going to go to my number eight too, which is I'm going to talk about a film that we have spoken about, but this is at Halloween 5. So Halloween
Ah,
5 is now my number 8, the Revenge of Michael Myers. Um, and we've spoken a little bit about this based on how you spoke about it earlier.
mhm,
I have it at my number 8 for a number of reasons. So it isn't my favorite Halloween film. And when I first saw the film on VHS, or I think it was the late 80s, whenever it was,
mhm.
and I was still a kid growing up, I was uh, to be perfectly blunt, I was very disappointed by it. I was like, what's going on
Oh,
here? And then it kind of grew on me. And look at it as being, and much like the talk we had a little bit about resurrection, Halloween
mhm.
Resurrection, and you said about comedy. The first thing that came into my mind was Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. I think this is one of the funniest films
Yeah.
in the entire series. I think this is so funny. Um, Tina as a character, I think is one of the funniest characters. Love her or hate her,
Yeah.
just she gives it her all,
She really does. She really
and
does.
it's just and her boyfriend's named Mikey in a
Yeah.
film about my just and I think right there's his name Mike, and he's the one, and he tries to do like a trick or and then right.
Yeah.
So that's something that um he couldn't do what Buster Rhymes was able to do, was mouth out trick or treat. Even
Yeah.
trick or treat mouth. He couldn't say that. He was just,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the couple in the barn having sex, very uncomfortable. Like I don't know about I don't want to be laying down on hay because it's going to
No.
be very painful and all this stuff. Not to mention that like, it just goes back on
Yeah.
the
And
thing.
there's
And
cats.
yeah, yeah, my goodness. And then and then the idea, do you remember the scene with and Sam Loomis is just off the chain. He's
Yeah.
just like
Full
just
blown.
yeah, full blown, like, and even the nurse at the children's clinic was like, "Just get away from her, get away from her, get away from her." It's like, "I want you to and like when they've got the psychic connection, Michael Myers is in the mask, the different mask driving away Tina, and they're trying to look for her, and there's the dance recital or something at the clinic,
Yeah.
and then this Daniel Harris's Jamie has an episode, like, and the boy is there translating for her as she's, and they're like, where's Tina? And the boy's like, all nighter, the shop, what? And then like, and you see the image of Tina going into the gas station with the cookies,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
the giant cookies
Cookie
over the
lady. Yeah. Yeah.
over the breasts of the lady. First of all, what kind of store is this?
Yeah.
Is this a kind of adult video store, or is it? No, it's like a
It's a
gas
gas
station that
station.
sells. It
Yeah.
actually sells cookies. It's like this is
Yeah.
amazing. So it's like, and so they oh Woman, there's a woman, big woman, cookie woman. And the funny thing about it is, like, you see, like, and like, Donald, cookie woman, and the cops behind him, like, know immediately where this is.
Exactly what it
Like,
is.
oh,
Yeah.
I know where this is. So they this is the funniest scene. And then
Yeah.
just what else is there? The scene where they're in the house, which is a completely different house. And I don't know why it's a different. It's a funny thing. Like,
Huge.
it's a huge. This is but it's so different now. What's going on? But anyway, so they're in the house. And the climax, I think, is really great. The bit
Yeah.
with the house and the shoot and all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then, but another thing too. So before that, Michael Myers apparently escaped from the cops at the end of 4. He falls down a thing and runs down a river, and he's picked up by this old hermit who lives in the
Hmm.
woods.
Yeah.
And then,
Very Frankenstein.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's great Frankenstein. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Although there was an idea about having another sequence called Doctor Death, which wasn't in the final version, but that would have been really really Frankenstein,
Yeah.
which is also available on the Blu-rays and 4Ks here. But what's so I think the idea was Michael Myers is in a coma for a year. And the hermit was taking care of him, right, for a whole year, right, just there,
Yeah.
and it's lying there with the mask on. I think,
Yeah.
and then he just like, how does he repay his gratitude for this person who basically saved his life? He kills him. What's going
Yeah.
like, you know? So that was just so. I mean, that is like comedy gold. Not to mention the cops, right? And
Yeah.
the boing boom, and then there's a
It's
and then and then the man in black. What the heck's going on here? And then
yeah.
what was it? What was I going to say? There's one more, which was oh yeah, the funniest thing is, so they're in the house. You remember they're in the house at the end there,
Hmm.
young Jamie is there. She's in the second story or something with the police officer as well.
Yeah.
And Michael, they know Michael Myers is coming, so it's the police officer got rope, and he's gonna first tie the rope to the window sill or something. It's just the idea is gonna tie the rope, and they're gonna climb down the window using the rope. And he ties it
Hmm.
up, and he sees Michael coming. Oh, I've got to tie the rope, and he's about ready to tie the rope, but the window sill breaks, or the window thing breaks. Oh, and then you gotta cut to the door, and now he's tying it to like the radiator or something, and seeing he's trying
Yeah.
to bring it down there, and he's like, "Oh, and then get on my back," and he gets on, and she gets on his back. The idea is he's gonna climb down, but then he turns, and Michael's and he's like, "Oh, get off my back!" And now he's gonna shoot the door, and so he shoot the door, and then he gets like, he gets.
Yeah.
That is, I don't. It's the most. That is just heartwarmingly funny to me. I love that type of setup of suspense in this film Halloween 5. That is an example of I think it's such a great scene. The earnestness of this police officer who's just doing his best, just not his day.
Yeah.
Certainly not his day. And that's an example of sort of comic genius, I think. And so that's where Halloween 5 gets a lot of points for me,
Yeah.
is as pure entertainment. And I think it's set up, the Man in Black thing, I think it's intriguing. It's teased just enough, and
Yeah.
then that's it. There's a little bit of a shot, I think, of the wrist, which I think is
Oh
teased
yeah.
just
Yeah.
enough.
Yep.
And the farm implements for the kills, I think, are very effective. I don't know, Michael Myers. There's much to be said about the mask of Michael Myers. Like, the neck is much bigger than the chin. I mean,
Yeah.
really, really big. It's like the neck's here and the chin's out here. So
Yeah.
what's going on? But I think the performance, I think, is very good. Michael Myers looks very. You see him unmasked a lot,
Yeah.
and he looks a lot like Michael Myers looked in the first film. In
Yep.
fact. So he's aged pretty well. Whatever the hermit did to him, it
Yeah.
worked, because he's kind of
Yeah.
he's looking pretty good, and he
Yeah.
can still see out of that eye.
Yeah.
So that eye also regenerated, I guess twice, right? Because he got stabbed in the first one, and then he got his
Yeah.
eyes blown out by the bullets in the second one, but he still can see. But anyway,
Yeah.
whatever the hermit did is
Yeah.
doing when how does he show his gratitude? He just
Yeah.
Anyway,
Send
that's
him a
Halloween
thank you
5.
card.
Yeah, yes, that's Halloween 5. So that's my number 8. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. And I gotta always say, look, with Halloween 5, the fact that so he picked up Tina, like, and he was gonna take Tina to this party. Like, so Michael Myers comes after he kills her boyfriend. He comes, picks her up, drops her off, lets her get cigarettes. Like, I was like, was he like? When were you planning on killing her? You gonna go on this date and then like like
Yeah.
he that part made me laugh.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then Tina, right? I think, yeah, again, love her or hate her, she really tries. She really tries,
She
and
really does, yeah,
yeah, and she really cares for, like, when Jamie begins to talk, you really get a sense of that. I mean, there are some things that are a bit difficult, like Rachel, how they treat the Rachel character,
yeah,
and the like. But I think, um, yeah, that might be a little bit more forgivable, quote unquote, for me, than how they treated, the jump between H2O and Resurrection. But that being said,
yeah,
I understand that criticism. I
yeah.
get the criticism of Halloween 5 because I was there, but it's becoming a fast favorite. Earlier, maybe if we did this list last year, Halloween 5 might have been at the bottom, but now it's my number 8. So
Yeah, and
there
I
you
feel
go.
like it would have been a little higher, probably a little higher for me too.
All right.
Right,
So
so
where are
here's
we? Number
so
7?
number 7, I believe.
Okay.
So I have, speaking of Halloween 4, I got Halloween 4, and this one, this one is really special to me too because even from the start, so it's been a while since we've seen in the original movies. It's been a while since we've seen Michael Myers. They tried to do the anthology thing, and then it was Mustafa Akkad, comes in. Let's bring back Michael Myers again, and then I love the intro to this movie. It's very Halloween. The soundscapes, and shout out to, who is it? Is it Alan Howard, who
Howarth,
kind of
yes.
took over in that little in between for John Carpenter. I think he did a great job with the scores too.
Yeah.
Uh, and then it's kind of like we got this really eccentric kind of like hospital worker or a security guard that's like, oh, we're gonna go into hell and get Michael Myers. We got to transfer him on Halloween night. And then you feel like you're a part of the the crew that's coming to transfer him. And then going down in the basement, it's got like, it almost looked like it's Frankenstein's laboratory with all the machines and stuff like that. And then I think they do a really good job of setting it up
Yeah.
and being like, "Oh, you missed Michael Myers, so here you go."
Yeah. And then suddenly yeah, yeah, yeah,
And when's the last
yeah.
time you saw a thumb to the
Yeah.
forehead?
Yeah, yeah. That was, amazing, yeah. So Halloween, so yes, and then, please continue. I interrupted. I apologize.
Oh, no, 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 you're okay. Um, and I like how they. So when you see Michael now, he's in bandages and he's really, you know, still got those human-esque qualities to him. He's all bandaged up, and I really like that look as well, because we'll talk about later, but the fire in Halloween 2 is huge. Like the explosion, like you could tell that he's going to need some cosmetic surgery or skin grafts or something like that after all that. So I like the look. I like the direction of Halloween 4. Um, they bring in these new characters that, for a lot of the movie, I will say to its fault, it's kind of like Jamie. She says something, gets lost. Rachel has to go find her. They love each other. They hug, and then it's it's that a couple times over.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I just like the vibe. I like the first time we see Michael Myers versus a whole town. I think
Mm,
is pretty interesting. Um, and I think some of the kills are some of the best in the series as well. We got a shotgun through the chest, and then you got Grady, picking him up, and I think it pays a lot of good homages to the 1 and 2
mm.
for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, and it has some creative, sequences.
Hmm.
And I think it is very modest when it comes to showing the gore on screen, which
Hmm.
I think perhaps the thing at the beginning with the thumb and the forehead, that's probably one of the goriest things.
Yeah,
But
starting off the
yeah, exactly. And then
yeah.
it has, you hear things, and things are shot sort of off screen, but you get a sense of what's happening, the violence, which I think is very effective.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, this is a really, I think, a really good choice. A really good. I think this helped a lot too in terms of the continuity of because you have to remember that right, Halloween 3. After Halloween 3, we had no idea what was going to happen,
Yeah.
and the excitement that hit when news of this first reached us, and the trailer came. I cannot tell you as a little boy just how as a little boy how excited this made me.
And see,
And
that's so
I think that just I think without that we wouldn't have the Halloween films like we do. I mean, I think it was that big of a deal. Really
yeah,
was that big of a deal, and the fact that it turned out so well as it did, I think, yeah, it's a testament to how just the sustainability of this. But yeah, great choice, absolutely
yeah.
great choice. So number 7. This is your number 7.
Number 7.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna have to go. Let's see, number 7. So we're gonna be diverging here a bit. So I'm gonna
Okay.
have to go here to the David Gordon Green set here.
Okay.
So, and I'm gonna have to do this. This it's gonna be this one. Here we go. Da 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 da.
Oh,
Halloween. Yes, this is the 2018 version of Halloween.
okay.
This is my number 7. So this is I think, a very effective film, and I think it's effective because it's I think doing something which I think is really quite remarkable, which is making something that is both a kind of reboot and sequel and remake.
Mhm.
And I think those are very fashionable in this day and age of cinema and entertainment. And I think maybe for the most part, it's I don't know about you, but I'm not really into those sorts of things for the most part. They usually don't work for me.
Yeah.
Uh, this worked for me. I wouldn't say it's my favorite film of the Halloween series,
Mhm.
and it doesn't at all eclipse how I feel about the earlier films. And we'll get to that when we get to the latter part of this list. But I think as an effort to continue on as a means of trying to bridge the gap between the first film and this film to create a new continuity, I think it was very effective. Now, I must say, I, mm, I go back and forth when it comes to the creation of the new continuity, even skipping over Halloween 2. I get why they needed to do it,
Yeah.
because of the sister angle, and also because of Michael Myers was basically right. They acknowledge what Halloween 4 doesn't, was which is Michael Myers was burned to death, kind of. So
Yeah.
how do you
Yeah.
get around that? Uh, I guess Halloween 4 did. So yeah, he's alive.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's in a coma. It's a coma. So but anyway, so but so yeah, I kind of yeah, when they get to that bit in the film Halloween where didn't they say they were like brothers and sisters? No, no, that was just a story that people made up to make themselves feel better
Yeah.
or something like that. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
just yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I get it, I get it. Sometimes that's not the most popular angle of the series. Even I think diehard fans of the series maybe acknowledge that maybe that wasn't not for everyone, but maybe for some, maybe that wasn't the best way to go in terms of establishing the brother sister angle.
yeah.
Um, but it is still undeniably part of the Halloween legacy that led to 2 and then 4 and 5 and 6
Yep.
and 7 and 8 actually.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I wish the film wasn't as say flippant towards that as I interpreted it to be. But that's a very 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 minor point. I think that it is, and also I'm not so sure about like I think about Halloween H2O, and like that was the marketing of, oh, this is the battle between Laurie and Michael, but now it's like they're doing it again. So I feel like wasn't I given this marketing bit before with Halloween H2, but I fell for it. I thought, okay, that's fine. Let me go for it. And
Yeah,
I
me too.
thought that it was to me a very effective film in that way. And I think that the showdown between Michael and Laurie was really great. We'll get to it when we get to Halloween Ends, but the way that Halloween ends, and that film was marketed as being the ultimate showdown between the two. The ultimate showdown was what we already saw actually in Halloween 2018.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and I thought it was great. I thought it was, and the twist that you
Yeah.
mentioned, Karen's twist at the end of Halloween Kills. Here, it's
Hmm.
like, you know, it's not a thing. It's a trap. It's like
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
It's a trap. Yeah, it would. You wanted that. You wanted him to
That'd
be
be
that. Yeah,
amazing.
that was
Yeah.
great. But anyway, yeah. So Karen's like, it's a trap.
Yeah.
And so but anyway, yeah, so great. But and some of the kills are very intense. They're just
Yeah.
Michael is just all out, just no holds barred, just totally intense. The doctor here, with like the whole twist with the doctor, I thought that was a really inventive twist.
Yeah.
That's something that was, I think, one of the great twists of the Halloween series, is the dog. You wouldn't expect that, and then the more you think about it, you think, my goodness, actually, that's pretty. That's yeah. Why didn't I see that coming? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then like, say something, Michael said, oh, and all that hamburger flow. My
Everywhere.
goodness, yeah. Just but so and I like the sort of banter, the sort of the small talk between the characters that we just meet briefly, and then they suddenly like, I like to go hunting, Dad, but I'm missing out dance class. I like that sort of
Yeah.
stuff because it's
Yeah.
reminding
Yeah.
me of the Halloween. Like, oh, so you do think about these things, huh, Lori? I don't
Yeah.
want to go out. But Ben Tramer, I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah.
And like, or like, I love books. Who needs books? I don't like books. I don't know books. I don't know books. I don't like books. Yeah. So it's like it has that kind of vibe to it. So I really like
Yeah.
that. I like the sort of randomness of it, and suddenly we get to know these people. All of a sudden, they get obliterated. So it
Yeah.
adds to the sense of fear and intensity. But again, I'm still grappling with some bits of it because it's still fresh for me. I haven't seen it as much as the others, so that's why it's maybe in mid tier here for me, number 7. But
Yeah.
still a very entertaining film. So that's David Gordon Green's Halloween. That's my number 7.
And Daisuke, I was going to ask you about the comedy in that one too. Do you feel like, um, especially with uh, the high schoolers, do you think the comedy, because it's clearly, I feel like it's supposed to kind of give kind of like Gen Z the little romp that they need. Do you think any of the comedy in there works?
I think so. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
it has that, as you say, that Gen Z vibe to it, but there's
Hmm.
always heart to it, which is I like the bit with the babysitter and the kid, and it's like,
Oh
I
man,
hate you, I
he's so
hate you.
good.
Yeah, and then at the end when he's getting ready to go to sleep, and she's saying, actually, what, you're my favorite. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I like you too, and I like that. And
Yeah.
it makes what happens to her at the end all the more it's like tragic, really.
Yeah.
And then like in the second one, Halloween Kills, you see the kid on the TV like, yeah, I killed my babysitter or something like that. Yeah, it's, right on the
Yeah.
news, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
so just but anyway, but which kind of like, I mean, it's sort of maybe I don't know, but anyway, there was a tender moment in Halloween, which I don't know how I feel about Halloween, but anyway, so yeah, I think that the comedy works because there's a tender edge to it as well, and it feels, I think it doesn't feel like unintentional comedy. It feels like it's done on purpose, but I think it's
Yeah.
done to humanize the characters even more, which I think for me worked really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel?
I think I feel the same way, especially like, I forget the kid that gets the iron gate
Oh
through the
yeah,
face. I keep on forgetting his name.
yeah.
Um, but he has a moment where he's like in the grass, and he's like, oh, he thinks he's talking to Michael Myers, but he thinks he's talking to a neighbor. He's like,
Motion
haven't you just,
sensor. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, which is great scene. I thought that was, pretty suspenseful too. But you could feel pretty, you know you could feel for this kid that, he kind of just made a mistake. He's trying to get with his best friend's girlfriend, but you could tell that he felt some kind of way about it. So,
Yeah.
and he was kind of like the comedic best friend type. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So, although to his credit, I think he thought, right, that they had broken up because of what the she was upset because of the fight that they had, and and Cameron threw her phone into the pudding or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Great plot device. So how do we not how do we prevent everyone from being able to reach her? Let's throw her phone into the
In the
pudding.
pudding.
Perfect, perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Was it pudding or something?
It
Maybe
was
someone will come. It wasn't pudding, Daisuke. It was something else. So
it was
anyway,
very
but
viscous.
it's viscous. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's gooey. So anyway, so Halloween. Yes, so number seven. So where are we at? Are you at your number six here?
I think so.
Let's go. Keep
So
going. All right.
I don't have, strangely enough, I don't have a cover, but I
It's
have
okay.
Halloween Ends as my next choice.
Number six. Okay.
Number six is Halloween Ends for me. Um, and I have to, I've been on record talking trash about Halloween Ends. I thought it was, when it first came out, I thought it was the worst thing I had ever seen. I was one of those kind of butthurt fanboys that kind of, you know. So I sat down last night and I rewatched it, and man, my tune I feel like has completely changed
Hmm.
because I think maybe the the way that the trilogy kind of flows, and I'm trying hard to judge it on its own merits as just being a single movie, but I think the way that, Halloween Kills, everything was ramped up. It was next level, especially the dialogue between Laurie and the town was so uh, high energy and
Yeah.
infectious and hostile that when you get to Halloween Ends, and it's been some time, I think it's been 3 or 4
Yep.
years since Kills, and everybody has kind of like, it feels like a brand new town with a brand new set of characters, and Laurie is almost kind of how you would imagine Laurie from the original. Now she's kind of like sat back. I got my dog. I got my dog right here.
It's
She's
okay.
kind of she's kind of sat back and watch out, kids. Uh, and kind of focused on living her life without Michael Myers. And now you get some of these other characters. Corey Cunningham comes in, and my only fault this time with Halloween Ends is that I wish uh, the Corey Cunningham character could have been something that was weaved into uh, Cameron's, and that is Laurie's granddaughter's boyfriend, through who died in Halloween Kills. If it could have been incorporated into Cameron's story, because he kind of grew up, Cameron, in like, so I believe his dad is Lonnie in the lore, and they kind
Yeah.
of grew up. They were kind of like the troublemakers of the town. Like everybody was like, "Oh, you're dating one of the so and so's." Like, and I felt like it would have gave Cameron a better character arc if he
Yeah.
had, if the town was already thought he was this one thing, like comes from this like drug dealing ruckus family, and then accidentally, if he was babysitting, you know,
Yeah.
accidentally kills this kid. And I feel like it would have gave him a better like character arc. But Corey Cunningham, I think it's a little jarring to add this character in the final movie of a trilogy. But judging this movie on its own merits, I thought it was a great story. And there was one thing. Oh, actually, I'll wait because I'll let you. I think you might bring it up when you talk about Halloween Ends, so I'll wait.
No, no, please
Um,
go ahead. Please, please.
but you mentioned Christine, and man, that kind of we're talking about John Carpenter's Christine. It really made me kind of think about that movie and the beats of that
Yeah.
movie, and I really have a newfound appreciation for it because you just see the Corey Cunningham character, and you really want to root for him. Like he's been through this awful thing, and you want him to kind of get over it and find love and stuff like that. But maybe it's the town that's a little bit of curse. Maybe the town has sealed his fate a little bit, and this Halloween, this Michael Myers that he stumbles upon.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And this is your number six, right? So I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to say, let me just say, then my number six too is also Halloween Ends.
Oh,
My
okay.
number six is Halloween Ends. So there we go, Halloween
Okay.
Ends. So I have this higher than either Halloween Kills or Halloween, the David
Hmm.
Gordon Green films. They're for the highest in this ranking of those 3 films for me at number 6. And therefore, that means it's my favorite of that 3. And I think for the reasons that you cited, I think I feel that way. I too would have loved to have seen the character of Corey Cunningham maybe integrated into the story arc a little bit more, especially considering
Yeah.
how well they were trying to tie up connect all the threads, especially in kills. They were really trying to do that, connect everything.
Yeah.
So you thought this feels really out of left field.
Yeah. And I think that's what really got me at first with
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
it does. It feels quite random, but uh, take it for what it is. And it's a really scary, intense ride, and you get a
Mhm.
sense of Corey Cunningham and his transformation, which is almost kind of like a Rob Zombie take on it. You feel sympathy for
Yeah.
this character in an interesting way, but it's also given that John Carpenter feel. It feels like a John Carpenter '80s film,
Yeah.
and the aesthetic and the vibe and the way the story beats are, and the Allison character, and what happens to her, and the fact that the people who are the victims here, you feel like they've done something wrong, but then they get their comeuppance in a really violent way.
Yeah.
So that has a very, as you mentioned, a Christine, John Carpenter's Christine vibe so much, which I really enjoy. The Cunningham character, the name, all the way down to the last name as well. So,
Yeah.
and we mentioned this off screen too. The character Michael Myers has an M. Corey
Yeah.
Cunningham CC.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Halloween 3, but Conal Cochran is also CC.
Yeah.
So all the villains here have the first name, last name, the same letter. So
Hmm.
what's your first name? What's your last name?
My first name is Tanner. My last name is Trezza. Yeah.
TT. Oh my God, goodness.
TT. Yeah. Yep.
So
I got
so
my
I
new line of Halloween masks coming out too. I'll send you one.
Which is probably why they didn't pick up the thread of Halloween 4, the ending of Halloween 4, right? They
Hmm.
did, right? Because her name was what, Jamie Lloyd, or then
Jamie
something.
Lloyd.
So if her name was Jamie Johnson, or yeah, or yeah, something like that, or maybe what was her, I don't know. That would have been JJ. That would have
Yeah.
been so, but anyway, so but yeah, so the double C's, like the double M, so there's something about that. And I love how it is it there is heart to it. The
Yeah.
relationship between Corey and Allison. Granted, I think Allison, maybe she sees him in the hospital getting, and then she wants to get to know. I find that a
Yeah.
little bit. Maybe there would have been a bit more beats there for it
Yeah.
to be a bit more believable for my taste. But okay, I can get it. I can get with the groove with this. So with the
Yeah.
groove of the film. And so then we get into their relationship, and then we have the Laurie Strode character, as you mentioned. It's kind of mellow,
Yeah.
um, and just trying to move on. And it's like, um, talking about her new book, and meeting, the guy in the supermarket. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm learning Japanese,
Yeah.
and I think he does say, I lost my shirt.
Really?
Shatsu,
Yeah.
Shatsu nakushita. Yeah.
It's
So
awesome.
yeah, so I think they said, or he says, or something. So I think he says "satsu nakushita," which means "shatsu," or my shirt. Shatsu, or not shirt. Shirt. We say uh, 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 "nakushita," which means lost. So I lost my shirt. That's what he says. That's right.
Okay.
So, but yeah, and then she's like seeing the cherry blossoms, and the lady, the caretaker. What was her name? I forget her name, but she was doing the drone in Halloween Kills,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
she gets the thing in the neck, and
Yeah.
he sees the guy get like stabbed with all these things by Michael, and she's like dying. And I thought she died at the end of
Me too.
she's still alive,
Yeah.
right? And like, this is your neighbor. Don't you feel any guilt? You brought, And when Laurie Strode walks out of the supermarket there, so she's still
Yeah.
alive. It's amazing. But I mean, I thought that that character and she was also in the first film as the caretaker, right? When they go to
Yeah.
visit the cemetery,
Yeah.
but Yeah, Ends. Sorry, Halloween Ends. I think it's a great film. This is also fast rising in my own ranking. Right
Yeah.
now, today, it happens to be at number 6, as
Yeah.
you as well. So Halloween
Yep.
Ends at number 6. So
All
yeah,
right.
great. Let's move on. So are you good for time? I'm still good. Are you okay?
I'm good, brother. I'm good.
Let's keep going. This is great. So number 5, right?
All right. So number five, I got the first in the David Gordon Green trilogy here, and I really I I, I do enjoy the recaliber. I think quote unquote. It's nice to see like a more unstable character in Lori, especially at the
Mm,
beginning. It's nice to see uh, kind of what happens with this new town and all these new characters and the mother and daughter dynamic. Um, it's a weird dynamic where um, people that let's see if I can phrase this correctly. People that do better in life when they're in a panic than they do in peace times. Like you can see
mm,
most of the time people that if they have PTSD or anything like that, or if they were in the army or the military or anything like that, people that don't know how to live without any sort of panic like that and try to adapt to life that way. So I thought it was really cool to see the three generational effects of all that, which I know that was intended, but you know, I thought it was a cool dynamic for that. And of course, uh, being if you chronologically watch all these movies, kind of like how we did growing up, it's entertaining to see like, oh, we've seen Rob Zombie's take on it. Oh, we've seen what happens in Halloween 2. So I thought it was pretty interesting to see where they took the film, you know,
yeah.
after Halloween 1. So I thought they did a pretty good job, um, and I thought the gore was good. I think as just generally a horror fan, I think it has enough scares and gore, and also like the banter between townspeople, like the banh mi sandwich, like them talking
Yeah.
about that. I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty cool. You
Yeah.
gotta have little things like that, and of
And
course,
peanut butter. It ended up being peanut butter. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, and the trick at the end, the trapping,
yeah.
like that this house isn't a cage or a cell; it's a trap, you
That's
know.
right.
And
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Like it hit all the beats that I needed to have it in the top ranking.
Oh, well done. I love that. That's great. That's really great. And as you mentioned, to the humor,
Yeah,
it
I
does
thought the
have,
humor hits. Yeah, yeah.
and the music. What's your take on the music?
Oh, it's fantastic, especially the because I think we all know before this trilogy came out, like generally the Halloween themes, like I said, Alan Howarth kind of continued with all that, but just having John Carpenter back and having kind of the little John Carpenter tweaks to them, especially in the high intense scenes. Like you'll
Mm,
have this like crazy, like almost like electric violin crescendos in the
mm,
score whenever Michael pops up. You're like, oh man, this is really the your heart rate's racing. It's really like getting the excitement up
yeah.
for the cat and mouse chase. You know?
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good take. That's a really good take on that. I mean, all your takes are great so far.
No,
This is
thank
great.
you. But it's
So
really like it was almost because I feel like in the we'll talk about the Halloween 3 score, like the Halloween 3 has really like the atmosphere really, and then it'll bump it up in the high moments and then it'll let it go, let it down,
yeah.
and I think the new trilogy does really good with that. But then again, it's John Carpenter again, so
Mm, mm.
could just be his take on it.
Oh, that's great. No, it's a good choice. It's a good choice. Again, I mean, it's a very successful film for I think a lot of reasons. So
Mhm.
you point those out so well as always. So
Oh,
that's
thank you.
great. Number 5. Number 5. That's a great choice. Number 5. And so now let me turn to my number 5. I don't think it's been mentioned yet, so I'll be
Mm,
mentioning it here for the first time, which is that okay, Halloween H2O 20 years later.
mhm.
Halloween H2O 20 years later. So this is the film that was kind of another showdown film between uh Carrie Tate, right, her
Mm.
name, or
Yeah.
Laurie Strode,
Yeah.
and Michael Myers, and Josh Hartnett is in there.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I think sometimes I think Josh Hartnett's like the mask in H2O. I know there's a lot about the mask. It's so
Crazy.
many masks. There's some CGI mask in one, which looks, oh my goodness, and then
Yeah.
there's the pink the pink one with the hair.
Yeah.
But the one that you get a lot of close-ups on, with the close up in the window and thing.
Yeah.
That kind of looks. I know it's supposed to look like Shatner. I know that, but it kind of looks like Josh Hartnett.
A little bit.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
is that supposed to be kind of like an like I don't know, like eatable? But anyway,
Very true. That's crazy
yeah.
kind of coincidence, man.
I think this film. I saw this film in the theater when it came out. This is after Halloween, Curse of Michael Myers. So I mean, whether one, I mean, we mentioned Curse of Michael Myers, but there was kind of a lull, commercially speaking,
Yeah.
in this, and it was where is this the end, or will there be a resurgence or something? And it came in the form of this film, which was around the time of Scream.
Yeah.
This is very much Scream, which one of the great things about Scream is a type of calling attention
Yeah.
to the conventions of the genre, and I think that wave helped to inject and re-inject a type of popularity into this film, which came in the form of Halloween H2O, and so we're getting a lot of callbacks to things that we saw right from the start with Mr. Sandman
Yeah.
and the opening. And it's funny, it's really great to see Joseph Gordon-Levitt here in this film,
Yeah.
with the ice skate to the face,
It's crazy.
and then the way it opens, and then it goes into Halloween H2O 20 years later, and then the way that this is a continuation from Halloween 2.
Yeah.
So there's still the brother sister storyline, but now Carrie Tate Laurie Strode faked her own death. Now she's living in this private school setting with her son,
Mhm.
and also new boyfriend potential. There's the father, but he's nowhere to be seen. He's mentioned a little bit at the beginning, but that's pretty much it. He
Yeah.
forgot his birthday card was somewhat late. That kind of the conversation, this thing about going on the school trip or not, and she seems to
Yeah.
be very much clinging to him, especially around this time of Halloween. So there's this idea of trauma 20 years later. No one seems to be believing her, but when um, Michael does show up here, find out the file, which we understand maybe is why he's able to find him down. Finds another car, goes
Yeah.
there, and tricks LL Cool J to get ready, and then who's writing a book,
Mhm.
and his the I don't know, I can't even paraphrase what it is he's writing. And
Cantaloupe watermelon, what?
yeah, and then just um great. But again, like if that book ever got published, I'd be like, okay, yeah, if the book like that got published by LL Cool J, I'd buy it
Yeah.
definitely.
It would go
But
triple
then,
uranium, man.
yeah, gosh, I would go buy it. He should write that. He should write that, and then, like,
Yeah.
you know, LL Cool J, and he goes to Barnes and Noble. I'd line up and
Yeah.
get it signed, and be like Sam Loomis in Halloween too. Oh, you got my gun! Ah!
Yeah.
But anyway, but anyway, um, so yeah, and then there are some great showdown moments. The kids, it's pretty brutal with the whole shoot thing and the
Yeah.
elevator thing, and her leg gets caught in it, and it's
Yeah.
pretty intense. And the boyfriend, he's like, oh, the thing which is like Halloween 2 and the nurse and the thing,
Yeah.
and then you've got Michael doing the now classic one armed hanging off of the bar there,
Yeah.
and then the final battle. So this is real exciting, and then the final decapitation. This is great. This is really great. It was a fun time. It's great to see Laurie Strode and Michael back at it.
Yeah.
It's not my number one. I think for me, it'll always be weak. The weak score. The score for me is not the strong
Mm.
point. I think it's too orchestral. It's too, Halloween Kills has a little bit of the chorus, but I think
Yeah,
it's added in just enough so it doesn't go too much. Here we get too much of the bass,
yeah,
da 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 da. I don't want
yeah,
to. I don't need to hear that with the orchestral uh, backup. I think it's really well done. I'm not
mhm,
a musician, so I know it took a lot of work, but there's something about the synthesizer score and the simplicity of the piano usage
yeah,
that you mentioned. Alan Howarth as well,
yeah,
and the John Carpenter, Cody Carpenter, etc. In the recent outings, and so there's something about that that's very effective, very chilling. Here,
yeah,
the music is the weakest of the films for me, and that really it creates a kind of like much like Curse of Michael Myers. It feels like an action adventure thriller
yeah,
more than a scary film, although it does have
yeah,
scary bits to it. Like I can imagine this film would really it would shoot up the stratosphere on my list had it had a score that was more like the synthesizer score that I really like, the John Carpenter
yeah.
84. So
Is it would saying that it's too posh be the right thing, right term for it? It might not be, but it's like,
yeah, it has too much brass or horn section, I think.
yeah, yeah,
And it's that's what's really interesting about Halloween. There's a sense about how it has there's a cool crispness to the synthesizer score of that
yeah,
80s vibe. There's just something that's undeniable about that for
yeah,
me. So, and it's lost when I hear the music here.
yeah.
The tension dissipates for me in a lot of the scenes.
That's so
So,
interesting, man.
yeah,
That's
but
really interesting take on it.
doesn't dissipate it for me enough to make it a completely
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
unentertaining film. On the contrary, it's very, very entertaining. I think it's great, which is why I still have it here as my number 5. That's my number 5, Halloween H2O. And I love
Okay.
it. Halloween H2, like Halloween water. They should have marketed that like Halloween water. They should have put that in all like the
Yeah.
water bottles. Yeah, you know that would have been so great. Like it could have been pink water. I don't
Yeah.
know, but anyway, yeah. So like the color of blood or something like that. I don't know how
Yeah.
marketable that would have been. Like, but they should have marketed Halloween water. I would have bought it.
Yeah.
I would have bought Halloween water.
I know,
But
all
anyway,
day, every day.
yeah. But anyway, Halloween H2O. All right,
Hey,
number 5. So number 4.
surprisingly, oh,
This is
I got yeah,
this is number 4. Okay,
yeah, this is number
okay.
4 for me. But I absolutely agree. I think, so, like, if I was gonna sit down and compare the performances and the character of Laurie from, like, the 2018 to Halloween H2O, I gotta give it up to Jamie Lee because I feel like her
Yeah.
character is a little bit more nuanced in this.
Mm.
Like, there's a moment towards the end of the movie where, you know, she could very much escape with her son, and then she closes the gate and she goes back, and you can almost feel like her voice tremble, like she's not quite sure, but she's like, I got to finish this anyway. Like, just things like that. I think it's done more. Uh, I think it probably a little bit more relatable as a character to, like, somebody like you or I could see this woman. She's clearly a strong person. She would end up in this, like, uh, uh, authority role in this school,
Yeah.
and somebody that you could see something like that happen,
Mm.
uh, to a person like that, and then her finally trying to get over the trauma, and then
Mm.
finally just all these bad things happen, and then she's like stepping up to the plate, unsure, but still rocks it out. And I wrote here that, like all of her decisions in the movie, like sometimes in the new trilogy she would make like a bad decision, which is human, but like I feel like all her decisions in this one are pretty spot on, because it's her boyfriend that shoots LL Cool J. It's not her. They don't give her that, like, that moment of, like, bad mistake, which I thought was pretty cool too, that like she was spot on pretty much at everything she did, which is pretty calculated.
Okay, what about this bit at the end after Michael falls and everyone
Oh,
thinks he's dead and
uh-huh.
then they're taking him away, but then says, "Oh no, I'm gonna take the ambulance away." What about that bit? What do you think about that?
So when I first saw it, man, I loved the whole, her stealing the truck and coming down. Um, I was for it. I was for it. And like
Okay,
the moment she kind of has that peaceful, like, all right, this thing's done. Because I know I'm gonna chop your head off. You don't know. But like it when it came out, it 100% worked for me. I
okay,
was I bought a ticket. I know, some people are like, oh, you can't just cut his head off like that. But it worked for me.
very cool. No, I totally respect that. Totally respect. And again, I was in you saw this in the theater, right?
Yeah, and I don't
Yeah,
know. So if it came, I think it came out in 1998. If I'm, so
yeah, 20 years later. Yeah.
I think I was 7, and it was like, my mom was like, "Peace out," bought 2 tickets, and then like just kind of left me and my brother there. My brother's only 2 years older than I am, so you got like a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old just by themselves in the movie theater.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's fun, you know.
Wow.
But it was
Uh,
it was incredible, man.
and that
It
was the
was
first
yeah, my
Halloween film you
first
saw in the
horror movie
theater?
experience in the theater.
A first horror film experience in the theater.
Oh, yep.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's
Yeah,
great.
first horror film.
That's great. And
Yeah,
the rest, as they say, is history because here you are. It's so it's
absolutely. Yeah,
very
yeah,
formative experience, definitely.
yeah.
Oh, well done. Well done. So
Yeah.
yeah, I remember when that happened at the end with the head,
Mhm.
people were cheering in the audience. It was,
See,
"Oh,
that's crazy.
yeah, yeah." It was, my goodness. It just, um, and then you just gotta stick around 5 minutes later, and you realize, oh no, that wasn't him. It was the mustache guy. But it's okay. It's okay. But anyway, yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. It just, I think Halloween Resurrection maybe kind of dulls it a bit for me. But still, I think yeah,
Yeah,
as far as endings are concerned, that's a pretty intense ending.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing, because I saw Halloween Resurrection in the theater too. I remember it was the only time I ever thought I heard people like audibly do an eye roll. Like when that happened, like you could hear like the whole crowd deflate after the larynx thing. I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, all right, all right.
But anyway, so that's your number four.
It's my
Number
number
four. That's a
4.
great choice. So number four. So
Thank you, thank
so let's go to my number four, which is here we go. Halloween 4,
you.
The
Oh,
Return of
okay.
Michael Myers. That's my number 4. So I I I thought about this long and hard, and this film was not always my favorite film. And it's still not my favorite film in the Halloween series because I have it at my number 4. But um, I saw it again recently, and I've seen it periodically before, and it was a kind of uh, I much like the humor parts that get me for Halloween 5, those also have pushed this more and more towards the higher part of my list, as well as the scares. So, case in point, here we've talked about the egg look of Donald Pleasant.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's there,
yeah,
sometimes it's not. Excuse me. And so I like that. I mean, it looks. Is it an egg or is it? I don't know. Is it something? Is it like a body part? I don't know. It
yeah,
looks.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Is
pretty.
he's just having a moment, or what's going on? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, I've had pimples, so I can relate. So,
yeah,
but maybe it's just one of those. Sometimes it just happens. It's just
yeah,
you can't. You have to wait a few days for it to calm down again. But it just seems to pop up and disappear and pop up again. But anyway,
yeah.
um, so that's really interesting. Also, just the nature. Again, just thinking. I just love thinking about this stuff. Again, they blew him up in part two and
So
they
big.
left him burn. Like even at the end of part two, you see a shot of his face, Michael Myers' face burning twice. You see it not
Yeah.
once, but you cut back to it again twice. And then like it's time, Michael. You shoot his eyes out as well, I think. And then oh yeah, he's in a coma. I
He's all
love
right.
that. I love yeah, he's all right. Yeah, yeah. And like, look at me. I survived. Yeah, you're bad. Yeah, so and then Michael is, and now we get
Now.
the yeah. Now we get the yeah, I mean, your Donald Pleasance is much better than my Donald Pleasance.
No,
Like,
no,
here,
no, no.
you gotta give me some here. What are some
No, the
Halloween?
only I think just at the end of Halloween 4, he's like, "Now!" It's so that's the best thing about Halloween 4 and 5 is just, like, prime time Loomis, like, everything's up to 11.
Yeah.
He's just, like, it's so good to watch. He makes the
And
series.
he's so confident at the end when he comes back to the home. He's like, "Yeah, yeah, Michael Myers is in hell." Like, yeah,
"Now, now!"
oh,
Yeah.
you do great. Oh, your Donald Pleasance is excellent. Well done. Oh gosh.
I should dress up as him because I kinda have the vibe going on. I just gotta
And
get a trench coat.
so and then it's just like I like when they're shooting Michael Myers at the end. He's like, boom, 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 and like like that. He falls over.
Yeah, yeah,
I like that look of Michael Myers.
yeah.
It's really great. So
And I like
yeah,
the
again,
mask too.
yeah, me too. It has a very flat look.
Yeah.
It's not. There's no Shatner here at all. I know who would you say it compares to? Is oh gosh, who is it? Is it like I don't know. It's um I don't know who he looks like. It's not Shatner anymore. That's for
No, it's
sure.
definitely not Shatner.
Yeah, it's got a very yeah. But and then the Jamie plot line is emerging here.
Mhm.
Rachel's emerging here. The whole love triangle
Yeah.
and
Cops do it better.
yeah, yeah, or cop to it by the book, right?
Buy the
Yeah, so
book.
yeah,
That's it.
and then and then the whole thing with the gun. If you're gonna shoot the gun at Michael Myers as he's
Yeah.
slowly coming up the stairs, just run up the staircase first and shoot. Don't wait. But anyway,
Yeah.
and then just yeah, you're right too. We get the town aspect as well, which I think which would make a kind of an interesting segue into Halloween kills and Halloween ends in an interesting way.
Yeah.
But it's so I think this is a very good, really, really not really good, excellent film, and it's grown in esteem for me over the years. I didn't I'm on record saying maybe I wasn't enjoying it as much as others, but I'm beginning to enjoy it more and more and more
Yeah.
as the seasons pass for me. So this is my number 4, which is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Incidentally, I should point out too the titles. I like the title, The Return of Michael Myers. Very
Mhm.
succinct, very to the point. The Revenge of Michael Myers, Halloween 5. I didn't mention it then, but what's his revenge for? Like what is he? I don't know what he's getting back at. Like, there's no sense of revenge for me. But
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, is he getting back at the hermit? If so, the hermit. I don't know. At
Why
least what
didn't
I
you help me?
yeah, he helped him. Well, there's
Yeah.
no sense of revenge, but anyway. And he didn't even meet Tina until then, so it's not like he's getting back. Is that Rachel? Is that against Rachel? I guess it is. If so, then he got his revenge like 10 minutes into the movie. That's
Yeah,
it.
he
But
did
anyway,
pretty well.
yeah, but so that's Halloween 5, but here's Halloween 4. And the ending, I must say, the ending, it's got to go in the great. It could be the. I don't know. Is it one of the best endings of the series? I'm not sure. Yeah, it is actually one of the best endings of the series. That is a
It's
great ending.
it's great seeing the chase, and I don't know why I think it's always so funny. So there's a part where Jamie and Rachel. So it's before they get on the roof,
Yeah.
but it's just seeing So there's a stairwell. They throw a whole bunch of crap down the stairwell so he can't like
Yep.
get up, and it's just funny to see Michael Myers just trying to just like get through all the crap on the stairs to get to the attic,
Yeah.
and I
That's
just think
great.
it's the whole roof scene is great.
Yep.
And when he comes, so when they're driving away with all the people in the truck and he's hiding on the truck, and then he comes out like John Wick and starts throwing people off the truck. It's great.
It's amazing. He's very agile.
Yeah.
And then he gets shot, boom, 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 and
Yep.
then of course the twist with Jamie at the end there,
Yeah.
which is, and then there's just no, 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 and then like he was about to shoot, and the guy's
Yeah.
no,
He is legit about to shoot. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that was an intense. It would have been interesting to see had they carried on that plot line.
Yeah,
in the further films. But again, things happen as they happen.
yeah.
But that's great. So okay, that's number four. So three to go.
Okay.
Okay, so where are we at? So what's your number three here?
All right. So
The final three.
I'm gonna go
Ah,
with a little bit of
okay,
Season of the Witch, my
okay.
friend. And I will be the first one to tell you, I was kind of there was so in the late '90s there was a weird there was a whole camp of people that I think it's totally different today. But they're like,
Hmm,
man, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch sucks. Don't watch that movie.
yeah.
Don't look at it when you go to Blockbuster. Don't even talk about it. Everybody was so anti Halloween 3. And I feel like it was the same thing with being a George Romero fan with the original Dead trilogy. I feel like a lot of the whole time when I was growing up, a lot of people didn't like Day of the Dead. They were like, oh, it's just like, it's
Hmm,
not Dawn of the Dead.
yeah,
And then that kind of changed over time as well.
yep.
So so I was super late to the Halloween 3 party, and the first time I'd watched it is when the Blu-ray set came out, and you don't really know at first what you're getting into, and then you see this character Tom Atkins, and then I got to say for Halloween 3, the first 15 minutes really draw you in because it's so one the soundtrack, two you see this guy is like exploding in this car. He douses himself with gasoline, and it leaves you. You have no idea what's going on, but it draws you in
Yep.
with this mood and this atmosphere that's totally cool, totally not like um, in the timeline like the first two Halloween movies. Um, and then there's some unintentional funny parts that I love, like Tom Atkins. Like I feel like them kids. I feel like uh was it Ben Tramer's got better luck than these kids trying to get a dad. Like throughout these whole movies, like these kids just want to spend time with their dad, and he's all about getting some Miller High Lifes and then going to investigate with this chick, about some Halloween masks. Like,
Maybe I should sleep on this out there on the floor. Where would you
oh,
like to sleep, Doctor Chalice?
oh, oh,
What are you
really?
going to get kids? What Oh, I got him some like real. You see what the masks that they give his kids? They're like
Some
really
dollar
cheap.
store, like,
Like ex-wife's like, no, I got him the expensive silver shamrock. Those are really expensive looking masks that she got.
yeah.
Goodness, you're right, Tom Atkins. I'm sorry. Yes, please continue. Yes,
But
yes.
he's always on the phone, like, oh, I'm gonna be a little late picking him up. Oh, I'll pick him up tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna go to this convention. Yeah, what's the hotel? I forget what the hotel. Yeah.
yeah,
Boom, and he's off
yeah,
with the young woman. Yeah.
yeah. And I gotta say, like, Tommy Lee Wallace, and I will mention All Heart to Halloween H2O with Steve Miner of Friday the 13th fame. He
Hmm.
had a couple, I believe part 2 and part 3.
Yes.
Talk about some underrated directors, I think, for Steve Miner and Tommy Lee Wallace. Um, but I will say the first thing that I noticed with Halloween 3, Dean Cundy on it, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize how much of the Halloween look is Dean Cundy, and you can
Yes.
kind of tell that because I'm like, no, like when it comes to actual like the script and the movie, Halloween 1, 2, and 3 completely different, but it feels like a Halloween movie still.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, even with like you have these like honey mustard blood robots. Yeah, you see there's a silhouette. It will show, you just see them standing, and then it's behind the back shot with these robots, and then you see like Tom Atkins walking in the distance, and it just feels like a creepy Halloween movie. And then you're on this ride with Tom Atkins trying to unravel this story. You got people dying, you got these Halloween masks. What does it all mean? And then I love how Tom Atkins is the kind of like the point of the audience, and you're like, oh, you got this one, now you got a babe. Yeah, it's a fun ride, very very, the vibes are 100% on this movie.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And let me just say, to my number three is Halloween 3.
Okay.
Yes, my number three as well. So it sounds like we're probably. I think I kind of can guess where we're going for the
Yeah, yeah.
the films. That's cool. That's cool. So, but anyway, my number three is Halloween 3 as well. So I agree. I think the setup is brilliant. I think I love
Mhm.
the homages to Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Alfred
Absolutely.
Hitchcock films, and like also the links to like Quatermass and all. It's so
Mhm.
great. And then and John Carpenter also had a little bit of a hand in this a little bit.
Yeah.
So it does have, and as well as the Dean Cundy look and feel, which is great. As you say, it does have that John Carpenter, Deborah Hill vibe, which is brilliant. It
Yeah.
isn't a Michael Myers film, although Michael Myers just appear really briefly on the TV.
And I love that, man. I
Yeah,
love that, you know.
I do too. It's like it's that's a great mentioning so Michael Myers does appear, although it's and then when the shocks come in this film, they are just unforgettable. Like when the first one comes with the lady in the
Mhm.
motel in the
Yeah.
door, and I think if I'm not mistaken, that was the real life wife of Tom Atkins, I think.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so I and so I and the actress, right? So I think
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's interesting. The real life wife was in the room next door as well. He was getting it all right with the in the movie
Yeah, yeah.
with his characters in them. Anyway, so and as that they were going, they're in the throes of hot passion in
Uh-huh.
one room. The ladies are like, "Oh, what's this?
Yeah.
No!" And
Intense.
I love how the room next door. She says, yeah, Ellie's like, oh, what was that? Well, so she's the one who's really sort of into the sort of detective mode. So what is it?
Yeah.
Had they stopped and investigated at that point, they probably might have figured out some. But it was the doctor. Relax. Let's just
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
goodness. So goodness. So just so but that moment too was so shocking that
Yeah.
and also not to mention the fact that there was also the scenes before with the dad and the eyes and the hospital and
Yeah.
like ripping off the head
The
and
nose, the
yeah,
bridge of the
oh my
nose.
goodness, and then
Yeah.
just the custard goo that comes at Dick Warlock all the
I know
stuff,
you.
and then it's all setting up meeting Connell Cochran
Yeah.
and this idea of getting this stone from Stonehenge, taking it bit by bit. I always thought it was pronounced Samhain, but I learned it's Soan, right?
Yeah.
So base, and then so, and then the which is a nice link to Halloween 2 as well.
Mhm.
And then, of course, it's the great character of Cochrane, one of the great villains. I think is such a great again CC. And then, of
Yeah.
course, we have the scene with the masks, the Silver
Yeah.
Shamrock masks in the testing room
Yeah.
with the little boy and this obnoxious family and the Silver Shamrock theme and this is do you know the film Videodrome?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This is just like Videodrome. This is
I
like
know.
video. Yeah, this is video. You watch Videodrome and watch Halloween 3. This is like the best. This is the best double feature. So, but this scene with the little boy in the mask, this pumpkin silver shamrock mask, and his head turns to mush and bugs and crickets and snakes.
Yeah.
This one of the scariest scenes I'd ever seen in my life.
I know. In front of his parents too. Like the older I get, the more I like kind of think about the parents in that scene too, because it's just like you're the number one salesman of the silver shamrock mask, and you think you're like he's going to give you a piece of the company or something, and then your son's head just turns into bugs and snakes and worms. Like,
This was so shocking.
yeah.
And I don't know how old I was when I first saw it on VHS tape, but it would have been like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 or something when
Oh
I saw
yeah.
this. And uh, just the even now, I'm whenever the little boy appears on screen, I get nervous.
Yeah.
So it's and you're right. I think, and people acknowledge this too when you watch the documentary. It's so charming the way that people think. You know, they're talking about it in the documentary. Come to think
Mhm.
of it, I don't think anyone thought at the time that if we're going to make a film called Halloween 3 and not have Michael Myers, we didn't really think how people would react to this.
Yeah.
It was really honest and very, very good faith um, approach to wanting to make it like an anthology series, which I really
Yeah,
admire. It just happened to be off the coattails of a really successful, 1-2 punch of Halloween, and then later Halloween 2. It's an expectation
yeah,
of a type of sequel.
yeah,
So Halloween 3, you think, oh, there might be some Michael Myers thing going, but no. And I was there. I was there for a while. I was like, I love the film, but it was like, where's Michael Myers? I was a kid. It's like,
yeah.
where's Michael Myers? What's going on? Does it count that I see him a little bit in the? And I was like thinking, I had this argument with a boy. I remember was in the schoolyard or something, just as a kid, like whatever it was, first grade, second grade, or something.
Mhm.
It's like, it doesn't count because Michael Myers isn't in the film. And I was trying to say, no, no, Michael Myers, you see him in the
He's
TV.
in the
He's like, no,
technically.
no, he's not. And like, no, he's not. This is not a Michael. And we got into this little, argument. It's no, but he's in the TV. But anyway, yes.
Yeah,
So technically speaking, he's in the TV. But I understand what the point is now. So if you're out there, I forget who this boy's name was on the schoolyard. But if you're out
yeah,
there, I
he,
I understand what your argument was now.
yeah. But he's
But
on the TV, so you're technically right.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, this is my number 3,
Yeah,
film. I think, when we talk about the number 2 film, I think it could go either way. Maybe
yeah,
on a different day, this could be my number 2 favorite of the
yeah,
series. It is that good. This is one of the great, horror films of the '80s. This is
yeah,
one of the great films, I think, in that sort of John Carpenter, Deborah Hill universe.
yeah,
If John Carpenter, Deborah Hill were like Kevin Feige of the
yeah,
horror 1980s. I mean, they were doing, really well, and I'm so glad that this film. I'm so glad for DVD and Blu-ray and VHS, and the fact that it's a Halloween film.
yeah.
I think that's probably it's playing to its strengths because had it not been people were thinking, maybe it wasn't if wasn't given the title Halloween 3,
Mhm.
maybe it would have gotten a lot of traction. And I'm not so sure about that. This is a film that
It's
could have
tough.
fallen off of the radar of a lot of, but the fact that it says Halloween 3, it's both a curse and a blessing
Yeah,
because it's a curse for the things that you said, but it's also a blessing in the sense that yes, we can now talk about it still,
yeah.
even now, which is always part of the equation. So Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. That's
And
my number 3.
that's a great point, man, because you're like instead of seeing this film when you were younger, like I know Arrow Video and all the companies now are really taking that love to take those like hidden gems of the 80s out. Like I couldn't imagine just waiting until right now to see Halloween 3 if that was like if it was titled just Season of the Witch, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
just so much time and memories kind of lost just because, it didn't have that name Halloween on it.
And I love the dot matrix
Yeah.
pumpkin,
Yeah.
dun 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 dun, and the music you said is great, "Ba, ba, ba, ba," and the Sting
Yeah.
music, wow, ah, it's
Yep.
so great, yeah,
Yep.
that's great, and that this kinda, Atari pumpkin look, that's
Yep.
so awesome, yeah, but,
Yep.
anyways, that's number 3, Halloween, so that's my number 3, and that's your number 3, so what is
Yep.
your number 2?
You might be able to guess this one, but I got
Ah, okay,
oh Halloween 2
alright,
on
let's
here.
yeah, cat is out of the bag for you, Halloween 2 is my number okay, okay,
Yeah.
please, please, my friend, your number 2
Oh,
and my number 2.
so it's really like just growing up in general with Halloween 2 being one, it's given me the fascination for there's a couple different horror movies that happen immediately after. There's a movie called Insidious, and there's Insidious Part 2 that happen almost immediately after one another. And I love movies that are like that because it's almost like oh, you just had a slice of cake, you get to have another slice of cake because it's more of this movie called Halloween that you love. It's the later that night, so you've been through hell with Lori and the kids and Dr. Loomis, and then I shot him 6 times, and then you just get more of that. Um,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Could you do it in like Sam Loomis, Donald Pleasance with a little bit of Arnold Schwarzenegger?
I shot him 6 times. I say I can't do it. And it is, sometimes the Schwarzenegger's on, sometimes it's off. But the
It's
evil is the
not a
awesome hero.
tumor.
And I watched Last Action Hero too, like 2 nights ago. So it's like Claudius. So good.
Not to be. Yeah.
Yeah, so good, man.
Oh,
He
I
made
love
a
it. I love it. Oh, could you imagine
yeah,
Arnold Schwarzenegger as Dr. Loomis? Oh my
dude,
goodness.
it would
Uh,
mean everything to
the
me.
devil's eyes. I can't do it. Yeah. Yeah.
The
The
blackest
blackest.
eyes? Get it away from here. It's so I love Schwarzenegger, man. But
I'm sorry. Please get it. So Halloween too. Sorry. Sorry.
So Halloween too. So it's like I said, it's like having dessert. The evil is gone from here. So it's having more of the cake. I love the hospital atmosphere. I love Dr. Loomis being uncaged and against Michael. And I didn't know that John Carpenter came in and did some additional shots. So like I
Yeah.
guess the beginning, like I don't know whether it was like immediately with the old couple watching TV, watching The Night of the Living Dead on there. I don't know if he necessarily did that one. I know he did the woman talking on the phone, the younger lady talking on the phone, and Michael Myers pops up and then kills her that way. Um, but yeah, I didn't realize that, and I love that beginning scene with Night of the Living Dead. It kind of
Yeah.
harkens to how uh, Michael was a kid in the original, just really nice like that, and just to kill and I don't know, can you share your youthful Bud story?
Oh yes, yes, I think so. Yes. So there's the Bud character here. And he's they're singing a song in the cafeteria or sort of break area of the hospital, Haddonfield Hospital. And he's having, I think he's thinking about one of the nurses, I think was portrayed by the actor who's a Pamela Susan Shoop, I think. And so
uh,
so he has the song. It's pretty risque. So what was it? Amazing Grace, come sit on my face. Don't make me cry. I need your pie. And this was very risque, right? Because it was
yeah,
something that, I mean, these are very innocent words themselves standing on their own, like pie, right?
yeah,
Or face, right?
yeah.
Which is, these are very innocent words, but taking in the context of what he's implying, it's very, there's sexual innuendo. It's quite risque.
Hmm.
But when I watched this film as a kid, again, early 80s, so, right, very, very young when I watched it on VHS, whatever, 5 or 6 or something, I had no idea what the implications were, the sexual innuendo. So
Yeah,
I would be just, oh, in the playground or something as a kid, thinking, oh, Amazing Grace, come sit on my face. Oh, make me cry. I need you. I'll be just singing this so innocently in the playground or something, not knowing that indeed, oh, it was only years later. Like, oh, I see.
yeah. I bet there
Okay,
was a
so
teacher so like just laughing all day.
yeah, I'm not
Like
sure. Yeah, I never got in trouble for it, I think, but it
that's
was
awesome, man.
yeah. So that's Bud. So and it's always when you see the TV version, it's kind of right. That's a bit where
Yeah,
they change it, right? They
yeah,
bleep it out or they do something they covered up and replaced it with something else. So
yeah.
so yeah, so that's my Bud story. Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, but please continue. Yes, yes.
No, but I feel the same way because you know,
You
so
feel the
all
same
my
way about the Bud song, or
well, in a way because like so all my family's from New Jersey, right? So all those Kevin Smith movies were kind of like a rite of passage, and like Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, like singing some of the songs from there, like are they're all just like curse words, right? You
yeah,
know, and just growing up and not knowing what it really meant, you know. And I remember me and my brother used to do that all the time. We would just be like regurgitating these Jay and Silent Bob lines all the time. So you know, and surprisingly we didn't get in trouble, but it's just those that innocent child not knowing
yeah.
what they're saying, you know.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, those are the yeah. It's and um, but So yes, so and then so continue, please. So Halloween 2, there are some there are other of course it's there are many aspects of this film. So what are some other aspects that makes this number 2 for you?
I just like the the first couple years of the 80s had a I feel you could pop in like a prom night, or you could pop in
Yeah.
like a tear train or something like that. And I feel like a affinity to maybe those first couple years of the 80s. And even though this has the I believe it was Rick Rosenthal that directed this, but even it still has all the Dean Cundy, John Carpenter, Deborah Hill vibes. But it
Mhm.
also, for some reason, and I don't know if this is just a me thing, but it still has that early '80s like aesthetic to it. It doesn't seem far removed from like a My Bloody Valentine, or
Mhm.
like a prom night to me. And I really love that. Like early 80s slasher. Um, and of course, the blood is dialed up. That was a conscious decision on John Carpenter and Rick Rosenthal's end. Really, let's get some blood. Let's get some needles to the eyes. Let's get this poor woman in this hot water vat. And really like amp up the body count compared to the original. But I have to give it to them, because if they would have just kind of did Halloween again, it wouldn't have I don't think it would have been the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. What do you think about the sister angle?
So I feel I feel like back then it was a good move, but like today it would be definitely something that you see coming. But I don't think, when I first watched Halloween 2, I didn't see it. I didn't see that angle coming. And I guess he was inspired by like the Star Wars, different stuff like that, maybe to put that in. But it caught me out of left field, so I have to give him that. I feel like it was creative enough to get uh, then a short time fan on board with this new storyline.
Yeah. I think it's definitely gives something of it's sustained the series in a certain degree with the other films that
Hmm.
have emerged, of course. Um, but let me just, sorry to let me just plug in
No,
my
no, no.
computer here. Give me 1 second here.
Do your thing, brother.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
No, you okay?
Just need to plug in a computer for power. So yes, so the sister angle, I think it's it's been it's an interesting thing too. I always again it's another thing too. Sometimes I like it, sometimes okay, but
Yeah,
again I still acknowledge how much mileage it got with 2 and then 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So
yeah,
to a certain degree 8. So but that's cool. So yeah, I think it's a this is a very this is a film that I've seen so many times,
yeah.
and you're right. It I think it does things. It makes certain change or not changes, but it makes certain twists on the original Halloween that I think make it distinct, which I think really effective. So it
Hmm.
adds the sister angle. It does uh, up the ante in terms of on-screen, say, effects,
Hmm.
special effects or gore effects on screen,
Yeah,
right? Um, it adds it puts a twist on the synthesizer music score,
yeah.
um, and and it's yeah. So those points I think really give it a sense of a type of sequel type of enhancement, which I think is a
Hmm.
really interesting move. When you think about the big films, the big horror films, and their sequels
Yeah,
really just were so maybe arguably just really different in radical ways. So you think about Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the
yeah,
Dead is like it feels like a completely different film. It doesn't feel like I mean, there is some connectivity, mind you, but you know what I
yeah,
mean? It feels
yeah.
like a hugely different thing. Alien and Aliens. There is some
Completely
connectivity,
different.
but it feels different. Even something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I mean,
Yeah,
there's some continuity, but it still feels radically different in a lot of places.
Yeah.
What's so fascinating about that conversation is if you put Halloween and Halloween 2 into that mix, of the bunch, Halloween 2 feels very, relatively speaking, close
To Halloween.
to
Yeah.
the spirit of the first film,
Yeah.
Halloween, while adding things that are very different, like
Yeah.
the gore and the things like, and the plot angle. So I find an interesting mix. It falls into that interesting spectrum of how sequels were done during the 70s and 80s within this genre. So it's an interesting example in that respect. I I, I do like as well the I like the new that was it the deputy sheriff, because what happens to Sheriff Brackett after they discover
Yeah.
Annie, they say, and then like uh, found three bodies. One of them was Annie.
Yeah.
And like, and they're about to drive off. They almost forget Loomis, and Loomis like, "Oh wait, I'm gonna go into the back seat." Yeah, so
Yeah. You think they're gonna drive
yeah,
away with the,
yeah. Yeah, after everyone's just standing there, just watching the body of this young boy who's been hit by a car now burning. No one's helping. He's just
yeah.
watching him burn to death. But anyway,
Yeah.
and anyone's like, "Oh, well, I'm trying to find this our friend Ben Tramer. Ben Tramer? Yeah, yeah, he's wearing a mask. That's all he says. Yeah, he's just wearing this weird mask.
Yeah.
You're dude. It's Halloween.
Yeah.
Everyone's, so give me a little bit more here what Ben
Yeah.
Tramer looks like. But anyway, so that's the idea. This is probably the Ben Tramer was the boy that they probably hit with the blonde hair, Michael Myers
Yeah.
looking mask. But anyway, yeah. So and that dentist was doing who's the in Jaws, right? They pull him out of Jaws, like
Yeah. Yeah.
Chief Brody, Chief, wait, they're calling me, and I've got to check the charred remain chief of this
Hmm.
boy. It's like Michael Myers is 21, you know. But I need to get Michael Myers dental rate. That could take hours. My goodness, it probably took hours to get the charred body's remain back to this
Yeah.
place to get the dentist. So my goodness, they worked really quickly in
They
Haddonfield. But
did.
in
Yeah.
any of it, the and it goes to the heights of the hospital.
Hmm.
And I don't know if a hospital has been done uh, in another horror film better. I think this is in
True. Very
a
true.
hospital film, a hospital horror film. For me, this is like the creme de la creme. This is
Yeah.
the top of the bunch.
Yeah.
And I love the hospital look. I love the sterile clinical look. It's scary. I love the little boy with the bloody mouth because he bit into a razor blade or something, which is such a random thing.
Dude,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was one of the scenes that got me so much when I was a kid. I was like,
yeah.
"What is this?" Like, it was almost like a little punch of reality that, like, oh, that's like we're talking about all this evil of Michael Myers, but there's like the evil of humanity just kind of like peppered in there.
Yeah, and I love the close up that it gives the little kid. Just
Yeah,
random. Oh my goodness. And then I love the mask. I love how it's sort of the beat up
yeah,
look of the mask, and I love the bit where you see his face in the rear, the side mirror of the car, and it
hmm
just looks like he just woke up. He's after a night's drink. He's like, oh, I've got a big hangover. That look. I love
yeah,
that look of Michael Myers' mask,
yeah,
and I love the some of the, as you say, the violent scenes are very intense.
yeah,
The bit with the knife in the back there and raising it, that's a very
yeah,
classic scene now. I love
yeah,
Laurie's hair. I love the way it looks so different, and
yeah,
just the chase around. I don't know about Jimmy. Jimmy, and he's in the pool of blood, and he just walks and he slips.
yep,
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've heard that it's very effective. I don't. I've never found it effective, to be perfectly. I've always found it to be like, huh? Huh?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Kind of
but
weird.
yeah, but I've always found that to be but okay, that's fine. That's one minor moment. I've heard people say it's a very effective scene in that way. So I personally never found it that effective. I found it kind of awkward,
Yeah.
but
And some people think that Jimmy's dead at the end of the movie. I thought that was weird too. Like, even though he kind of just like face plants on the steering wheel, but
yes,
I
that's
never.
right.
I'm like he's really not that like injured. Like he fell, but you know,
Yeah, and then you get a sense of what might happen if you get like the kind of the extended version of the ending or something like that.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, but we made it. We made it. Yeah, yeah, and then so or something. I think I forget. Yeah, that's
yeah,
what she said. But and I must say props too when you have a film that's so iconic as Halloween, and you have such an iconic score from the Halloween film. it's so great that the opening of Halloween 2 teases us with the score. It doesn't
Hmm.
start with the iconic music that we'd met expect. It starts with Mr. Sandman, and it kinda
Yeah.
goes like the dun, 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 just teases us.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
bada, 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 and it's like, "Is this a joke? I've been trick or treated to death tonight." And he's like, "You don't know what, can you do it, please? Can you do it, please?
You don't know what death is.
Can you do it as Arnold? I'll be the guy, the next door neighbor. Can you do it as Arnold? Okay, is this a joke? I've been trick or treated to death tonight."
What are you doing over here? You don't know what death is. I don't know. That's all I got.
And I love the when he comes down into the yard. It's the front yard this time, not the backyard, by the way. But
Yeah.
anyway, he comes down to the yard. I love how they took the trouble of making the impression on the grass. You
Yeah.
have like the arms
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
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 I
Yep.
love that. I love that little thing there, and then you see the patch of blood there, and so those little details I love, and um
The rate that the car explodes is
yeah,
like
yeah.
like it had napalm in it, you know?
Yeah, and then, Michael,
Yeah.
yeah, Mike, and then just and talk about running out of bullets at the wrong time for
Always.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah. So that's yeah, Halloween 2. I think I saw it way too young, and I'm so glad for it.
Yep.
Yeah, it will always be just yeah, it'll always be my number two favorite in this Halloween series. I don't, there's another film that's going to be number one, which I think I know what yours is,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it'll always be number two. Although Halloween 3 is giving it a run for its money, I think in a healthy way
Yeah.
lately.
Being that it's so original too, you
Yeah,
know?
but
And see,
anyway, yeah. Oh yes,
even
please go ahead.
even our talking, like, when we started talking about 3 and 2, we were like, you mentioned the when he stabs the nurse, and you said it was classic. So that must be the real difference between, you know, I got it right here. Halloween 1, 2, and 3 from the other ones is that when we mention it, you're like, it's classic. Like, everybody knows these, either like the kills or the score. You feel like you're kind of your whole uh, uh, the way that you speak about them is different.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a really good point. They've been around. They've been around. They're just legendary
Yeah.
now. So, and I know Halloween 2 has its detractors. I know it's not the fan favorite of everyone. I get
Mhm.
that, but um, yeah, for me, it's just it will never it'll never lose its luster. Oh,
No.
it's what a scary film that is. What a really
Yeah.
scary film. And yeah, I love the fireball at the end. It's just Michael Myers is just so stubborn. He just won't give up. It's just
Yeah.
really amazing stuff. And yeah, but we've got to go to our number one. So
Yeah.
the suspense is killing me. Uh,
Can we?
drum roll. Yeah. So what's your number one? And it is yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so we have the same version. There we go.
Yeah.
Halloween. So tell me, why is Halloween your number one of the series?
There, there's so many reasons, man. Just I don't know if I've seen a movie with, especially at the time when I was younger, with so much like atmosphere, that kind of differentiated it from like a lot of the other maybe like slashers that I was watching. I know Friday the 13th has a certain atmosphere, especially with the soundtrack and everything like that. Same thing with the Nightmare on Elm Street. But nothing encompassed the mood of Haddonfield, Illinois, quote unquote, on Halloween with these characters. Like, it felt so real. The music was spot on. It was just a feeling of Halloween that really drew me in. That I wasn't able to kind of feel from other movies like that. And it's everything. It's the lighting, it's the colors, it's the score, it's the acting. It's Jamie Lee, it's John Carpenter. It's everything, man. You know, maybe probably like top five movie of all time for me. Um, debatable. John Carpenter's best movie. I know that might be kind of an evil thing to say sometimes because people feel very particular about his filmography too. But I think it's one of those perfect horror movies, like
Mm,
5 out of 5. You know,
mm. It has as I mentioned before elsewhere in this conversation, I think it's so genius in its simplicity,
yeah,
and it, I think its setup is bar none so effective, and I love how it takes its time too. I love
yeah,
it knows when it's going to strike, but it's just going to take its time, and
yeah,
it's going to signal a little bit, going to give a little bit of stings here and there, and I love the stillness. I think one of the great things about Michael Myers' performance here, and Nick Castle, is the stillness and the
yeah,
command over the body, and just
mhm,
there's almost a ballet quality to the movement, which I think adds to the chilling effect of it. And totally, totally. I love this. Totally.
yeah,
It's it could be in many ways a type of a perfect setup, and I think it gives just enough information and just leaves it alone, so you don't
yeah,
need too much.
yeah,
You just have enough information to give it a bit of power in your own mind, of the imagination, and it lets it go in a very powerful way. And even so, these aren't the most violent looking or special effects driven scenes, right?
yeah,
They aren't, but it's just little things like the curl of the toes, right, with the right on the being impaled on the wall there, or
yeah,
just um, little things like just walking behind a character, not knowing. I mean, these maybe when compared to some of the violent scenes in a Halloween 2 or
yeah,
Halloween 4 or 5, they might be seen quote unquote to pale in comparison.
yeah,
But their effect is, I think, quite unique or very effective in that we get to know these people very well, and not in a kind of overly bearing random way, but in
yeah,
almost a type of just again very straightforward, direct way. And then suddenly something happens to them, and then uh, right, oh, it's great. I mean, talk about right. I don't know how you feel about Lindsay. Lindsay totally
oh yeah, yeah,
betrayed Annie, right? Letting them know what
yeah,
happened to her in the laundry room there. Gosh,
yeah,
and I love the bit with no one believes Tommy about the boogeyman. The boogeyman's like, she's scared. You're scared, Lindsay. No one believes you. And I like Lindsay.
yeah,
I believe you, Tommy. Is like what? And I
yeah,
love that. That's such a great. Just the little moments like that, I think, make the film just even more uh, uh, that type of uh, small town quaint feel,
yeah,
which makes it even scarier.
yeah,
And the stillness and the music and the atmosphere and the ambiance. Again, these have been mentioned so reasonably and so rightly over the course of its time since its release, and I think it'll continue to do so. It is a very effective film. It is very effective film. I'm so pleased too because it's a film that I think again has the risk of looking like it's not like the special effects extravaganza of many of the other films,
yeah,
but that has not of that has not diminished its glory in any sense. On the contrary, I think it's a great way of making it stand on its own in the context of these other films, while also just reminding us of the power of these cinema techniques
yeah,
and telling a really good story. It's a
yeah,
really good story and one for the ages, I think.
yeah. And I think there should be something said. Like, I know with the sequels, there's a route that you can go where if you meet like a main character and then you're art pulled into their trauma, it's kind of like a cheat code to relating with the character. And there's something to be said where you're just like a fly on the wall. These are these teenagers. This is how their life is right now.
Yeah.
These are their, their complaints, whether it's a math book or a science book or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then just taking a ride with them throughout this night, and just kind of letting the camera be where it is, kind of letting the story play out how it does. And there's something for the soundtrack too, is that in the other movies, I'm like, yeah, that's the Halloween theme, right? And then, but somehow when this movie first comes on and the theme music starts playing, I'm like, that it
Yeah.
makes me feel something different than it does with the other films.
I agree. Yeah, you see like the logo, like Compass International or something
Yeah,
like that.
and
You
then it's
see
like,
that, yeah. Mustafa Akkad, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
John Carpenter's Halloween, yeah, and then kudos to John Carpenter, kudos to Deborah Hill,
yeah,
the whole cast and crew, the getting of Donald Pleasance. Could you imagine if Christopher Lee had been in this rather than Donald Pleasance? I can't imagine.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a great film, I think, but just there's something about Donald Pleasance here. It's
Yeah,
great. And I forgot to mention too, speaking of great memorable performance, when I was talking about H2, I just wanted to say too, it's great to see Janet Leigh in.
yeah,
I mean, we saw Janet Leigh also in the Dark Carpenter film called The Fog, but it's also great
yeah,
to see her here in Halloween H2O again. Jamie Lee Curtis and Janet Leigh in The Fog, also here, and
yeah,
Tom Atkins as well in The Fog. But
yeah.
yeah, you're absolutely right. I just got to do some what if scenarios here, though,
Yeah.
like. We're doing a bit of Arnold Schwarzenegger. What if that would be so great? Can you please do the scene? Let's do that. Let's see.
Oh Lord.
Can we do? Let's see. Um, can we do the scene at the end? Right when he comes in and you shoots him and he falls out the window and boom, choo, and like so. I'll be Laurie. Okay, okay. I'll be Laurie. Can you be
All
Loomis?
right.
Okay,
All
okay,
right.
okay. All right. Here. What's the boogeyman?
And I feel like Schwarzenegger, he would do like just some general noises, like la la la, at first. He's like, as a matter of fact, I think it was.
Yeah, I love you would say as a matter of fact, I think it was.
Yeah.
You would- okay.
Like he'd be like, he would just general noises and then finish the line.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. Yes. And then could you imagine? Because we know the mask was a William Shatner, the Captain Kirk mask. It would have been interesting had they continued the franchise or the series, but with a different Star Trek character mask. Just
Yeah.
it's going to like Chekhov or Sulu or so. That would have been
Yeah.
really. But anyway, it's William Shatner. But
But it's great because the Friday the 13th franchise, like,
yeah.
it's crazy not getting your footing until the third movie.
Yeah, yeah, with the mask, you're absolutely
Yeah,
right. Well, I mean, I think there's something about the sack in two,
it's
that's for
creepy, man.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but there's something iconic about the hockey, that's for sure. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Um,
And
uh,
also, this is Halloween one has my favorite use of the mask as well. I think ever out of all the movies, I feel like it's the most perfect kind of like encompass of the
oh,
mask.
definitely, I
Yeah,
agree. I absolutely agree. And it's you get a little bit of battle damage from right? Who I didn't realize this until somewhat recently, but the actor that you see when Michael is unmasked,
hmm,
it's not Nick Castle, but it's Tony Moran, right?
uh
Is
huh.
credit who's when I did some is the brother of Aaron Moran. I think I'm not sure if I'm getting it right. Happy Days. So
Oh, crazy.
yeah, yeah. So, but I think that's right. I don't know. If I'm
Oh,
wrong, please correct me. But
that's crazy because
uh,
you can tell now, kind of like the shape of their face and stuff like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so that's oh gosh, it's some interesting what ifs as
I
well.
know.
I mean, gosh, who do you think would been in? Could you imagine someone like gosh, if they did that now, who would be? I guess we're doing remakes and stuff. Who would be the if they remade that film now? Who would be Laurie Strode and who would be Dr. Loomis?
Oh man, trying to think. I don't know. Would you be get De Niro
Oh,
to do?
De Niro as what as Dr. Loomis?
Yeah, yeah,
Could you
yeah.
be
So
like,
would that? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Keep
yeah, yeah,
going.
yeah, yeah, or could like, like, maybe Laurie's at the end, like, she's like, "What's the boogeyman?" And to De Niro's Loomis, and De Niro's Loomis looks at her and is like, "You talking to me?
Yeah,
You talking to me?" And she's, "Yeah, I'm talking to you. You talking to me?" Yeah. Well, I'm the only who the you think you're talking to? Oh yeah, like that. So
yeah.
anyway, but that's the twist, or no, maybe like that would be interesting. Martin Scorsese directs Halloween.
Pacino in there. I
Oh my
think
gosh,
it
but
was.
yeah. Pacino as Sam Loomis, that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got an idea of where he might be getting at. Is this guy something or is he something?
He got a
Michael
great
Myers.
ass.
This guy is good. You know where he's
Yeah,
going? Us. Oh, gosh, could you imagine? Yeah, he's
yeah,
Hanfield. That's Michael Myers up there taking pictures of him, and so,
yeah,
like, oh gosh, could you imagine? That would be, or who would be? Gosh, God, the possibilities. And Al Pacino as Sam Loomis. That would be
yeah,
great. Directed by. Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Oh wow.
That one's going
Possibilities.
straight to Laserdisc on that.
Yeah, yeah, gosh, or like, oh gosh, yeah, or maybe it should be something like who would be who, yeah, Al Pacino. Yeah, they should have been in more horror movies in the '80s than Al Pacino and Schwarzenegger and De Niro. I don't know. That would have been real.
Yeah,
That would have been just like just
yeah,
a film lover's dream, I think. But
yeah.
we got Donald Pleasance. We got Donald Pleasance, Jamie Lee Curtis. So that's the classic stuff. So
And I
uh,
loved. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make this go on for forever,
no, no, it's
but
okay. Please, please.
like, because you kind of get pseudo Loomis uh, characters like later, like so you got Donald Pleasance in Phenomena. He's talking about like, oh, when the it comes down from the mountain, it leads to madness and stuff like that. You kind of got these little like Loomis-esque characters pepped in, and he's in like Alone in the Dark too. He's
Yeah,
kind of a little unhinged. Uh,
yeah.
so I'm glad we got these extra little Donald Pleasant roles from Halloween as well.
Yeah, although I must say, the cover art for one of the limited editions for the recent like releases, I think it was, what was it, Synapse? I forget exactly which it was, but there
Mhm.
was a limited edition where you had Donald Pleasance's face on the cover. You know, what I mean? And it was a bit where something intent. He's like,
Yeah,
like, "Oh gosh," you know what I'm talking about, right? That
yeah,
bit,
yeah.
and yeah, I
That's
was like,
how he's memorialized.
yeah,
Yeah,
gosh, like, oh man, gosh,
yeah,
please, please, just that's the thing too. I must say about the David Gordon Green Halloween films on Blu-ray or whatever is, you got to give me a little bit more with the cover art.
I
It's
know.
just like
Yeah,
Michael Myers' face. It's like that or
yeah,
that or that. Just give me a little bit
yeah.
more, you know.
That's why I'm glad you got those steel books though, because those are probably the best route out of all of them.
Oh, the cover
Honestly.
art design?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I like the new, these 4Ks from, what is it, Scream Factory
Hmm.
of the other films with, the different implements that he's holding. I like Halloween
Yeah,
5, how he's holding that thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
wanted one with just for Resurrection, just Buster Rhymes
oh, that was so cool.
as the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
backdrop. It's like it doesn't even have Michael Myers on it.
That would've been so cool. I mean, I mentioned it before too, like, so what are some parting thoughts that you have about the Halloween series as a means of wrapping this up? We've spoken about the Halloween films for close to 3 hour after or more than 3 hours now.
Oh, I just want to
So
at first, I just want to thank you so much, man, for having me on. I think it always blows my mind that I used to just watch your channel all the time and then spend like $300 on Criterion's. And then now I've been on it a couple times now, and it just means the world. It really does. It's so nice. I appreciate you,
it's
man.
very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah,
It's very kind. So it's a pleasure to you're such a very dear friend. And you're such a wealth of knowledge. So it's great. And then and just talking about Halloween films with you, it's been a blast. I mean, I guess what are some hopes for the future? I'm hoping. What are some your hopes for what they? I know there's been some movement like Halloween on TV or something like that. I'm not sure, but what are some of your hopes for what you'd like to
yeah.
see going forward for the future?
I'm when it comes to the Halloween lore, I'm always, I feel like we've invested this much time. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of making TV series out of movies, um, but I'm sure I'll be there day one watching. Um, I didn't think I was going to get as much enjoyment from the latest trilogy as I did, and especially now rewatching Halloween Ends is getting even more enjoyment out of that. So, you know, I think I would say give it a little rest for just maybe like a year or two, but
Mm.
I'm still open for it, man.
Also, I'm waiting also for Michael Myers in space,
Yeah,
and also I'm waiting for the crossover between Michael Myers and Silver Shamrock. That's what I'm
yeah.
waiting for.
Uh, Just imagine if we did get like a sequel to Season of the Witch.
Yeah,
That would be insane. Like,
yeah, yeah. Could you imagine Michael Myers chasing down, I don't know, Jamie Lee Curtis or Laurie Strode or Allison or
yeah,
Karen or whatever, and then in the final battle would be Silver Shamrock's factory, and they meet like the doctor who's the Tom Atkins character. So they meet the doctor, etc. They do a final battle, and Michael Myers' mask is a Silver Shamrock mask.
it's crazy. And if they're fighting like they have
Yeah,
the whole
the
Stonehenge
robots.
in.
Yeah. Oh gosh, Michael Myers fighting robots. And at the end, they got to turn on the commercial to stop Michael before
Yeah,
he's going to do the final killer. So you turn on his Michael, and Michael Myers' head turns into like crickets. Ah, oh,
that would
wow! But
be
he's still
awesome.
alive because they
Of
switched
course.
bodies because it's really the paramedic because his larynx got crushed. That would be so. Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah,
goodness, that would be so great.
yeah,
Yeah, and then and then you'd have right guest cameos of like people from Police Academy movies and
yeah. Dr.
uh,
Dre this time.
oh gosh, and
Another rapper, like,
ah. And then let's just go all out. Let's invite everyone.
Alice
Let's
Cooper. Yeah.
Yeah, Alice Cooper, and let's invite Taylor Swift, and let's
Yeah.
go just go to gosh, who else?
If you put Taylor Swift in a Halloween movie, there's going to be there the amount of money that they would make today would be unbearable. Everything she touches turns to gold. It's
Oh my goodness,
crazy.
that would be so great. That would be
Yeah.
so great. Taylor Swift is Laurie Strode.
Lord, dude, if you want to put butts in seats, do that.
I think oh my goodness. And then Taylor Swift is Laurie Strode, and we've got to invite. Can we do you how's your Stallone? Can you do a
My
Stallone?
my Stallone is just like rumble.
Can you do it? Can you do
I can't do it.
Stallone?
I
Oh
can't do
gosh.
a Stallone.
Oh
No,
gosh.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not good at my Stallone. Oh, I can't do. Yeah, I sound like someone from
It's
Twin
I know,
Peaks. Yeah, but I can't do Stallone very well. But yeah, if Taylor Swift is Laurie Strode, who would be Sam Loomis? Um,
and
and they
and
should have
rat.
like a fast running Michael this time. You know how they did fast running zombies for the remake of
Yeah,
Donna? They should do that. Like instead of slow moving Michael, they should have fast
yeah.
running Michael. So that would be interesting. Like Michael Myers sprinter.
Trying to think.
And
So, who would be the perfect to Taylor Swift? That's a tough one, man. Especially in today.
gosh, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry to put you on the spot like this. I still
No,
have
it's okay.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is really tough act to follow.
For Loomis, that'd
Yeah.
be amazing. Like,
Oh, oh my gosh. You've got to do it one more time for me. Can you just one more? Anything. I'm so
the,
sorry.
the evil is gone from here. but,
Dr.
but man,
Loomis, I think I have it's not a tumor.
it's not a tumor. And man, because I don't know, because Arnold Schwarzenegger, he has an autobiography, right? And if you get Audible, he like reads the first three chapters, and it's the most amazing thing you will ever hear. He's like, Batman and Robin, it's the greatest box office movie. And he's talking about how good Batman and Robin is. It's amazing. He's like,
uh, I saw Batman and Robin in the theater as well. So I have a yeah. We should talk about Batman and Robin next time as well if you have it.
it's good. Yeah, yeah.
We'll do it all in the Arnold. You can do it in the Arnold Schwarzenegger voice.
That's cool.
Can you just give us a little preview of that? So Tanner, in your Arnold Schwarzenegger voice, what do you think about Batman and Robin?
Uh, because he always does the little mumble at first. He's like,
There's a
what killed the dinosaur? The Ice Age, You just, It made back 3 times its original budget. He
I
just
would be, the Joel Schumacher, the you've seen the making of documentary?
I think I have. Yeah, yeah, I think I have.
There's a bit where the director Joel Schumacher's and the ominous music is like, "If anyone was offended by Batman and Robin, I just want to apologize because I didn't mean to hurt anyone." Something like that. He's just the most earnest apology for
He did
Batman
get
and
back
Robin.
make whatever movie you want. I'm
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, it's and the ominous music over
yeah.
the making of Batman and Robin. It's amazing. But yes, yes. So we'll have to we'll have to lobby the powers that be that own the rights to Michael Myers. Will they consider having Arnold Schwarzenegger as Sam Loomis? I
Yeah,
think now's the time. Now's the time to ask. It would be great. I think
absolutely.
it'll be just a one of a kind experience, that's for sure. But before, if ever, maybe it won't happen, but even if it doesn't, we'll still have the memories and the cherished good times that we've had watching these Halloween films. So Tanner, my dear friend, thank you so much. Are there any things you'd like to end us with? Any things you'd like to talk about? Any upcoming projects or things you want to tell us about for your channel or anything of the sort?
Oh man, it's just kind of the channel is like anything that kind of comes to mind. I'll probably talk about The Exorcist Believer and maybe like a quick 5-minute video or anything like that. But I just want to say to everybody watching this, Happy Halloween. Everybody's entitled to one good scare. You know,
Exactly. Totally. Totally.
totally.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Tanner, for your time. And sorry for putting you on the spot so much with your great Arnold Schwarzenegger. But
Anytime, brother.
uh,
Anytime.
epic, absolutely epic. And your list was great. It was absolutely awesome. Thank you. I will rewatch Halloween Resurrection now with those points in mind. So
Yeah.
so thank you so much, my dear friend, and we'll see each other at the next one. So until then, yeah, cheers.